Happy Friday! Hope you're all having a good end of your week and a beginning of your weekend. Hi, everyone. Is everyone excited for today? I hope you guys are. Hey, Herminius, Howler, Salty, Flame, Mastiff, Ash. What's up, y'all? How's it going? Oh, I actually forgot to test something real quick. Hold on. I gotta make sure the pets work. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay, freezes me up every time, dude. Having a really fun day? Let's go! I'm happy for you. What are you doing today, Q? Now, I will say, class is not quite in session. Holy shit, shut up and take my prime. Okay. I have shut up and taken your prime. Thank you, Howler. Welcome back to the harem. Thank you so much for the 2 months. Hey, Hara, I hope you're having a wonderful day today, full of love and happiness. I sure am, Flame. Thank you, thank you. But I hope you guys are excited. We're not going to start quite class yet. We're going to let people file on in before we get started. So as usual, we're going to hang out and chat for a bit. I hope everyone's had a pretty great week. I know I saw you guys yesterday, but it was not the longest stream and it was pretty late. So I know a lot of people weren't able to make it. Looking forward to my short day of work, going to enjoy my birthday Saturday. Holy shit, happy birthday, Mastiff. I'm very happy for you. I hope you have a happy birthday. Your birthday's tomorrow and Roxas's was yesterday. You guys are almost twinsies. But I'm very happy that it's your birthday. I'm very happy for you. I hope it's a good one. But yeah, we'll be getting started here shortly. Now, if anyone does not know, has just shown up and has not seen any of the promotion material, today we will be doing a presentation on Ramesses II and Usurpation. Now, it is rather academic. The back half is a little bit dry because it's very academic. So I made sure to spice it up with a lot of background information for you guys so that there's not a lot of difficulty when it comes to understanding what we'll be talking about today. That being said, there will be a test on Monday. If you get anything lower than a C, you fail, and that means you're immediately mummified at the end of class. So I hope you all take a lot of notes today and you're all well prepared. Otherwise, it might not be a great beginning to your next week. Remember Ozymandias acts like a big brother to Egyptian pharaohs in Fate Go? Well, that characterization would be argued to fit him quite well by some, Flame. I won't be here Monday, then I'll get you on Wednesday. Well, I have Arma 3 to play and organizing stuff for a bunch of groups, so alcohol will flow like the Nile. Understandable. Alright, can I use the bathroom? Yes, Comey, you may go use the bathroom. We haven't started quite yet. I'm gonna give everyone about another 20 minutes or so to file in before we get started. Actually, it might take a little bit longer. I expect the presentation itself to hopefully take an hour to an hour and a half. So we'll chat it out here. I'm gonna pause. It might take longer because we're gonna pause and I'm gonna try to make it into piecemeal bits for you guys because I know what happened when I did a test run earlier this week is that I went way too fast and nobody in chat understood, well, not in chat, but in the Discord understood what I was talking about by the end of it. They didn't really have any questions because I just kind of bombarded them with information. So I'm gonna go slower. I'm gonna, every time we get through a major point, I'm gonna sit and see if anybody has any questions about anything, and then we'll move on from there. So there will be some intermittent pauses. No using the bathroom for an hour, dude. No. Not allowed. Ramses the biggest Chad of ancient Egypt. Some might argue that. Others might argue that he was a bit of a brat. But like I said, we'll be discussing that later today. So it'll be really fun. We do a history lesson on the Pharaoh Nitocris. I don't know, actually. If this does well enough, then I'll continue to do these. I'd be more than happy to. So make sure you tell your friends so people show up for these. Because I like doing them. I'd love to do them for you guys. If they get a little of attention, that's an even bigger incentive to do more, you know? They won't always, these history presentations, if I continue to do them, won't always be on ancient Egypt, but they will likely be ancient Egypt focused. I imagine that for the next one we're going to have a hieroglyphic stream, where we focus on the importance of hieroglyphs, how to read hieroglyphs, among other things. Speaking of which, I know I've talked about this already, but if anyone is interested in the Discord, I might get a group together for it. I know that there's some people... Ooh, something's a little laggy today. I wonder what... Whoa. Hello? Stuff's locking up. Huh. I wonder what could be causing that. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, we will be focusing on that today. In the future, we're getting a group together possibly for the Discord to figure out the hieroglyphs on my transition that you guys saw just a minute ago. I'm thinking I'm going to start handing out prizes for it. I might do a small prize for each person that figures out a panel of the door, and a pretty minor prize for the person that gets the curse at the top. So hope for the anime Record of Ragnarok, they have Anubis fight Grigori Rasputin. Oh yeah, I watched a little bit of Record of Ragnarok. It's interesting. I wish I could show it more often, but usually at work. Oh no, I totally understand, Mastiff. There's no need to apologize. I'm just saying, if people like it, I'll keep doing it. If not, there's no reason to continue, you know? Okay, give me 2 seconds, actually. I'm gonna restart YouTube Studio. Something is locking it up. Hold on. Why are you freaking out? No freaking out. Freaking out, not allowed. Something's freaking it out. I don't know what it is. Oh well. I might just have to push through it. What's up with all the emotes? I'm glad you like them, though. We've actually got one in the works that I'm pretty happy for. That should be here eventually. It should be here this month or next month. Oh, shit. I also need to get some stuff for, God, what is the name of it? The outfit. I can't think today. I need to get some stuff ready for the outfit and sent over to my artist. We're going to have that starting to get worked on here soon as well. But I guess before we begin class, is there anybody that has any possible questions about ancient Egypt, or possibly the topic we'll be discussing today before we start? Like any prior questions? I believe Ozymandias is related to a poem short story on King Ramses. Ozymandias is actually the other name for Ramesses II, and it is a poem that we'll be focusing on today. The name of the poem is actually Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. It was one of my favorites during my undergrad. Also because, like, some would argue that the portrayal of Ozymandias by Shelley actually fits what some would describe as Ramses' personality. Hey K9, how's it going? Questions? Where's Egypt? You know where Africa is? Of course you don't. I don't know why I'm asking that. Well, I assume you live in Canada or the US. So, if you, when you go to the beach, right? When you go to the beach, God, I'm gonna really have to dumb it down. When you go to the beach, and there's like the ocean, the big blue thing, not the sky, the other one that you can like walk into. Yeah, that's the ocean. If you look like way across that one, like if you got on a boat and went really far, you'd hit a continent called Africa or Europe. South of Europe is Africa. And in a part of that big continent is Egypt. Yeah. My first intro into Egypt's mythos and history was Pharaoh King Tut. King Tut is an interesting place to begin at. Are we going to be covering mastaba construction techniques, or is that next unit? That will likely be next unit, although we will get into the importance of how hieroglyphics are crafted and the importance of structures. So we will actually be focusing on that today. As for delving distinctly into mastaba construction techniques, that'll be a later topic. To the left of the oil places, yeah, where you know where Jesus was? You know where Jesus was? Yeah, like east and south a little bit. It was in the Bible. The Bible. You know, the thing they read off at church. Yeah, it was in there. Curious about Egypt's legendary curses. We could honestly, when we get into the hieroglyphic stream at some point, which would be a fun next one to do, I think we could also focus on the ancient practice of curse making. I think that would be really cool as well. Like, not kidding, not being ironic. The importance of spells were very big in ancient Egypt, which included, you know, things for protection, like using like my symbol, the Wadjet Eye, to dispel evil, but also, you know, writing curses, which was very common, especially for burial practices. Think Moses, Greek's legendary curse, may you live in interesting times. Yeah, really. May you have to have sex with women. That was the real Greek curse. If nobody understands that joke, there is a not very accurate but very funny joke that the Greeks invented sex, the Romans invented it with women. So I want to learn about the Rosetta Stone, which helped us learn about the language of ancient Egypt and its history. That would be an interesting topic to work on as well. That'd be a little bit more in the Renaissance. Well, I guess not Renaissance, but a little closer to today than it would be actual ancient Egypt. But we will be focusing on ancient texts that are non-Egyptian for a short bit. I hate that I understood that. Just a dumb little armchair historian joke. Just a dumb little armchair historian joke. Just like how you should never try to invade Afghanistan from the West. God, what was the other one? Like, never begin a land invasion in Africa or something like that? Isn't that another one of them or something like that? Just crater it. Russia in winter is another one, but that one's also more of a... That one's also kind of loaded. It's not exactly accurate for World War II. Ow. Holy shit, that's a big can of cola. Wait a minute. Wait, I think that's right. I recently changed the sizes for everything because we have edited some stuff for stream, and that cola can looks a lot bigger than usual. Hopefully, we won't get hit with a McDonald's. Yeah, Rosetta, super far in history, first found by Napoleon in 1799. Exactly, and you're gonna have to get into that if you want to discuss the stone. That's kind of like discussing Egyptology as a whole. Holy shit, that burger looks amazing. I just want you guys to know I haven't had McDonald's in 3 weeks because I'm on a diet, and man, do I want to go get some McDonald's so fucking bad. No, I want a cola? I've got one. Huggies. You guys are really making me hungry. I'm supposed to be dieting, damn it. I'm not allowed McDonald's. Never fight a land war in Africa, never siege the Polish. That's what it is. Now, I actually do have an interesting geography question. And if you know it, I love to see the kind of baseline that I'm working with today. This is more geography than history, but now I have to ask, guys, which direction does the Nile flow? Does anyone know? Anyone have any idea? No Googling it either. I know you have access to Google. Flows north into the Med. Exactly. Thank you, Perf. Trick question. It doesn't. Exactly. It's a lake. It's a lake. Which is a very interesting part of the Nile, is the fact that it's one of the few rivers that flows south to north, whereas most rivers flow north to south. It's very interesting. We can also do a whole presentation possibly in the future on the Sea Peoples and who the Sea Peoples might have been, but that would be a very interesting topic. I don't know if anyone knows what the Sea Peoples are. There are some prevailing theories as to who the Sea People exactly were, but there's no like conclusive evidence. Sea People would be nice. It is a very hotly debated topic. Not as hotly debated as Ramesses II, but the Bronze Age collapse is also interesting. We could also do something on like Mansa Musa. I know the Nile River plays a heavy role in Egypt's version of the underworld. The Nile River actually plays, frankly, the biggest role of probably anything in Egyptian mythology. The creator god himself, a tomb sat on the Bin Bin, which was essentially a mound of earth that was inside the primordial river, which, you know, obviously is an allegory to Nile, in which the Nile gives birth to the Empire of Egypt, much like Atem gave birth on the Bin Bin to the gods, and then eventually humanity. So they're the ones between the B and D people. Oh yeah, there you go, Mongol. Mongol figured it out. Shit, man, I don't know why we didn't just think about that before. Sea peoples believe the inhabitants of the Greek islands, right? The people who think they built Minos. Actually, Mastiff, so the prevailing theory that is popular these days is that while that is where it likely began, what happened was that there was a collapse, an economic collapse in either Eastern or Central Mediterranean. And essentially what happened is that a lot of these men who were no longer in wars because it was a period of stability. There were limiting economic factors, decided that the only way that they could get anything was by raiding. So they would form their own militias and start raiding other people. And then there would be a compound where essentially they would raid their neighbors, and then the neighbors would become poor, so the neighbors would raid their neighbors. And so it would compound into these giant groups that eventually swept all across the Mediterranean down into Egypt and Canaan, where they essentially ended up and were stopped finally, but not before creating a lot of havoc, even in ancient Egypt, which was almost at its height at the time. I got a question about Ozymandias. What makes him have the title of writer? Oh, well, we'll actually get into that, Fleem. But that's because one of Ramesses II, which is his actual English Egyptian name, Ozymandias is his Greek given name. We will get into the phonetics reasons for that as well. Is essentially because he wrote a chariot. He was known for a chariot. Yes, he was known for his chariot. At the Battle of Kadesh, to be precise, which we will also be discussing. You can't talk about Ramesses II without talking about the Battle of Kadesh. You absolutely can't. Same thing with the Silver Accord. Very chariot-heavy military tactics. Practically the tanks of their day. Well, I guess tanks wouldn't be entirely accurate. Two nights in a row, let's go! Hi, Nix! Hope you came prepared for class today. Tanks of their day till the sea people countered them. Yeah, chariots were still pretty effective up until the Roman legion became, you know, a thing. Wonder why Fate Go has King Ramses' ultimate attack is smashing his enemies with 2 pyramids. Oh yeah, that is really interesting. I must away and remember never kill Alexander's horse. True. That is a good fact. Never show up with a bigger army when you're never be the king and show up with a bigger army against Alexander either. Little do people know, I think it was King Darius, I think it was the first or the second, was who Alexander the Great went up against in the Middle East as both of their empires clashed, the Persians and the Macedonians. And essentially Darius would field these some would say million, the numbers are hotly contested, but all we know is that the Macedonians were massively outnumbered, like at least 2 to 1. So essentially, oh my gosh, why is everything freezing up? The heck? How weird. Anyway, sorry guys. We're having a little bit of... Oh, wait, I think I know what's wrong. Oh, no, I don't. Hi, Brad. How's it going? Oh my gosh, you having fun? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, whatever it was, I think it was the emote wall. I think I wanted to turn it off. I'll have to fix that later. So you won't be able to see emotes on screen, I'm afraid. You'll just have to keep them in the box over there. How you doing, Brad? Are you ready for class? What was I talking about, though? I forgot. Oh, yes, Darius and Alexander the Great, correct. Thank you. Essentially, the Persians would field armies that outnumbered the Macedonians, like sometimes 2, 3. I think there was even one battle where it was like 5-1. And the reason that Alexander kept winning is because essentially what would happen is that these armies would clash, and then Alexander the Great would take his honor guard and just charge Darius off the field, and it would cause his army to rout because their king is fleeing. It was really funny. It happened like 2 or 3 times in a row, actually. Hey, Beryl. Welcome, welcome. How you doing? Hope you're ready for class. Lady Hara, does King Ramses have any connection to the famous people outside of Egypt, just like how Cleopatra had a connection to Julius Caesar? Well, you have to imagine, you have to remember, Flame, the time discrepancy between King Ramses and Cleopatra is about 1,200 years. We're gonna have a discussion about Ramesses and the Hittites, which is something that we will be focusing on, is that, you know, main aggressors, they were the main aggressors in the Battle of Kadesh. With Egypt. But no, there wasn't really an empire at that time other than the Hittite and Persians. Well, there was also like the Assyrians and the Babylonians, but like Egypt wasn't under control of another empire at the time, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Like with all royalty, there were like peace marriages, you know, that common trope, which we will also discuss, but it was usually like, hey, I'll make your daughter my concubine, and we'll be cool because your daughter lives here now, kind of thing. That's pretty much how it worked 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes if there was a queen, they'd send their son, and to be reversed, but obviously in the ancient world, queens were a little bit rarer. Especially because, like, if a male concubine was a thing, then they'd have the ability to possibly take the throne, you know what I mean? Or question her power. That was a big 4 for a time. You are correct, Perfees. However, I believe the Assyrians and Babylonians, for the most part, and the Hittites were all gone by essentially the time that Persia moved into the region. They were swallowed up by Persia. Does King Ramses have a personal connection to specific Egyptian gods, like Pharaoh Nitocris has a connection to Anubis? We will actually discuss that as well, Flame. All pharaohs actually have a divine spiritual connection to Horus. Horus and Ra and Osiris. So, in a way, yes, but we will focus on that here in a bit. You are correct in that assumption. Yeah, ancient Egyptian mythology gets a little wacky, which is something we'll be talking about here as well. Is like the difference between cultural perceptions of then and today and how those things differ frequently. So, do you consider Alexander a pharaoh? Of course not. He's not Egyptian born. Of course not. Honestly, there's an argument to be given that, like, even Cleopatra isn't a pharaoh, because I don't believe that she's full-blooded Egyptian. I believe she's half Greek, I believe. Many at that time would definitely consider, definitely not Alexander the Great, definitely not Julius Caesar, definitely not Marcus Aurelius, and I would, there's a debate to be had if whether ancient Egyptians at the time saw Cleopatra as a pharaoh at the time. For a prime example, like, the other female pharaoh that I can think of would be Hatshepsut, which was long before Cleopatra, and even then, many did not, like, completely consider her pharaoh, to the point where she would make statues and memorials of herself where she presented herself as male, so that she would garner more respect. Which Egyptian do you hope to see in Fate Go? Me, obviously. I'd love to see me, dude. Put me in, coach. You can give me lewd-ass alternate outfits. I don't care. I'll deal with it. I do kind of find it funny that they added, who is it, Geb? No, not Geb. Who's the ghost boy with the sheet over his head? It's either Geb or... Oh, it's Newt, isn't it? Hold on. It's Medjed. That's what I'm thinking of. Medjed. Medjed's wacky, dude. Medjed's a guy. Yeah, but Alexander was accepted by the priest of Siwa compared to others who just conquered Egypt. I mean, I still don't consider that. I don't really care what a priest has to say about it. We'll also be discussing why, like, the religious complex and the literate portions of society would play into possibly accepting foreigners as a pharaoh, and that would be simply for personal gain, honestly. What would your class, a noble phantasm, be in Fate Go? I mean, my class, I kind of forget the classes. Probably not a berserker, even though I carry a big crook axe. It's a really good question. I guess rider. I do technically ride the boat, the solar barge across the sky, so I guess I would be a rider. I don't know. A meteor falling would be boring for a phantasm. I don't know, honestly. Maybe a giant solar flare or just a nuke. Just a nuke. Just a literal mushroom cloud. I could see it. I could definitely see it. Hey Trey, how's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good start to your weekend. Let me make sure that I'm getting everything in order real quick. Okay. Isn't Pharaoh Nitocris just made a Medjed swimsuit in Fate Go? Actually, I don't think... Now that you say it, hold on. No, Nitocris, I don't think she has one. Yeah, no, she doesn't have one. She's got, like, some kind of, like, skirt military uniform. But there is, Medjed is in Fate Go. I forget what their name is in Fate Go, but they are in it. Hold on. Oh, wait, no, she does have one. Never mind. It's her assassin form. You're right. I was wrong. I wonder why they have her dressed up as Medjed. I guess just a funny little meme. It's probably the reason. Interesting. If you get Egyptian history wrong, I'm putting you on a 16-foot fridge. Why a 16-foot fridge? Why specifically 16 feet? And why a fridge? What am I like? Am I like your kid's favorite drawing or something? I'm confused. I don't know, cuz. Whatever. Fine. Ow, fine. Put me up on the fridge. I'm gonna look hot fucking sitting up there, so... Nah. Deal with it. I will also say, I don't know if anyone has been keeping up with the JJK manga, but dang, it's getting spicy now that we're on the way of anime. No spoilers, no spoilering. I don't want to spoil it for people because the manga is so far ahead of everything else right now. But I'm excited for it. It's looking like it's gonna be cool. If King Tut was in Fate Go, his Noble Phantasm would be releasing all of his legendary curses. Honestly, we could get into a discussion about that as well. That is actually something I focused on during my debut, was like the Pharaoh's curse. But honestly, I wanted to do it for the conspiracy stream. But if we're being honest, the curse itself is, wow, legendary, is really unfounded. Like, one of them is like, I think Lord Carnarvon is who I think it was, passed away like 3 years after the tomb was opened, like a car accident. And everyone was like, ooh, the Pharaoh's curse. It's like, not really. It's just a car crash. Are you ready for this man Gigi to take another break though? I'm not. I've been bulking for like 3 days now, and all day today I've been so fucking ungy, munchies all day. Oof, that is rough, bread. I'm curious if King Ramesses has a unique curse. Yeah, I don't think he does. They were really pretty cut and dry. Ooh, curse. Nah, dog. Cars are just dangerous as fuck. Yeah, especially in like the early 1900s. I don't know how to do commands. Actually, are commands even working right now? Hold on. I think it's just time. It's just time. It's just time, Momo. Yeah, none of you guys can compare to me. I watched 408 hours of my own stream. Get wrecked, nerds. There was a curse of Timur where the Soviets opened the tomb up and the Germans invade a few days later. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to look into it. Prepare to see an audaciously low number. I mean, as long as you're here, hon, I don't care. Holy shit, that is low. That's funny. Narcissist, maybe a little bit. Aren't all gods? Base 2-hour viewer, actually, though. Is Pharaoh Ramses considered to be the founder of Egypt, just like Romulus was the founder of Rome? Not at all, Flame. Ramses is like 3,000 years after the Egyptian Empire was founded, my guy. 350 hours. Holy shit, Bistover. I'm only here for the War Thunder, but then I stopped thundering the war. I get you. Because I was practicing VR helicopter in War Thunder, then I hurt my eyes from the strain. Oh, yeah, that sounds not great, Momo. I hope you feel better. I know I personally, the only time I've ever had that happen was when I played Endless Space 2 for the only time ever. And, like, the game was, like, so engrossing and, like, I was so intent on trying to figure it out. I spent 8 hours with my jaw clenched, staring at the screen, trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. And ended up sick afterwards, and my jaw, like, sore for a couple days, because, like, it was clenched for so long. Still never figured that game out. It's just not for me, I guess. Low ass numbers I got, I know. Forgive me, please. You are forgiven, Bistover. Hey, Gummy, how's it going? Did you come prepared for class today? I hope you did. Who's your top 3 favorite Egyptian divine beings? Well, I mean, obviously, 2 are gonna be me. So, one's Ra and one's Horus, because I'm Ra Harakti. I mean, then I guess the 3rd would be Grandpappy Atem. I can barely hear you. I'm playing Helldivers. What class? What class? Fuck, I don't want school. I'm sorry, but this is what you're getting today, son. Let me restart VTube Studio real quick, y'all. It is having a hell of a time trying to figure out what is wrong with it. Please fix yourself. Be fixed! Dumb program. How about now? Stop fucking up. Oh, no, it's still fucked. God damn. Man, software has been an issue for me this month, hasn't it? I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's my phone? I think it might be my phone. How odd. Boomer Asatem. He's not a boomer. He was at the primordial focal point of creation. Who else passing out in class because Hara voice is calming as fuck to them? Oh, thank you, Brad. But no sleeping in class. We've discussed this. If you sleep during class, it will go against your attendance score for the semester. Shit, I don't know. We got, like, them sand gods. I don't know. Never did classes, but hey, I passed photography, so let's go. Gummy, I get to learn about one of my favorite regions in Mythos from a very beautiful and kind and lovely person. Oh, thank you, Flame. Snore, already gone. Already there, gone. All right, well, Brad, you currently have a D in the class. Sorry, say again, I was napping. Miss Rogane, that is also a D for you. I'm handing out D's, dude. D's nuts. Ah, jeez. Also, I will say, I've been uploading clips again recently back out to my TikTok. So if you want, you can check that out if you're a TikToker. I plan to upload this to YouTube eventually as well. 1A, please, Miss Hawa. You're gonna have to give me a lot more for that, dude. I can be bribed, but not for like 25 cents. That's a quarter. Was it an epic battle in War Thunder what I missed? We haven't started yet, Mongol, but we're about to start soon.
Social credit deducted.
Nah, it's already at 0. I don't care. It's all you pay us, though. I don't pay you. I'm your professor. You pay me.
My superpower's being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
I absolutely
Sun
will.
Tzu said that.
He sure did. I'm playing Helldivers. So you mean class? I don't want this. I didn't ask. You already paid for it, Gummy. What was I saying anyway? Oh, yeah. I'm uploading this to YouTube afterwards at some point this week. And then also, I was looking through old clips of me, and man, dude, I'm fucking funny. I don't care. I'm fucking funny, dude. Going through old clips of me, dude, I crack myself up. I don't care if it's narcissistic. The fuck you mean I paid? I mean, you paid. Gummy, what do you mean, dude? You gave me like 100 gifted subs. Like, you have gifted me the most subs out of anybody on Twitch, bud. You have 100% paid for this stream. Don't be so coy. Don't be embarrassed. This is all because of you, bud, and so many other people like Bistober. And D8, who I haven't seen in a bit. I think D8 said that they were gonna be on a deployment, so we probably won't see them for a month or two. Yeah, so funny looking. Not as funny looking as your mom. Who the fuck took over first? Nobody, but it has been reset, so yeah. It is now on a monthly thing, not an all time, so if you dorks want your names up there, it's only 1 right now. Damn, it didn't send, fair enough. Wait, what? What didn't send, Momo? I'm not broken! What do you mean I'm broken? Cringe? Yeah, I know. You want recognition? Show up more often, Gummy. Gumby. Ow! Damn, that cola is still really big. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. It should not be this large. I do this. Does it get smaller? Hey, Monastic, how's it going? No, it does not get smaller. Huh. Interesting. It didn't change the size. Oh well, we'll deal with it later. Okay. Oh, I forgot to hide it.
Squirt it in my mouth for $20.
I could, what of it? Got a lot of shit done today, let's go! Now you're here for class! I'm excited. I swear to God, you're begging to get gifted all my tax money. I sure am. You paid your first, government, pay your second. Right here, baby. Imagine if I was actually like that shitty about me, about money. Just being like, oh my God, you guys don't have $5? Like, oh my God. like that chick a while back who was just like, if you're in here, if you've been in here for longer than 10 hours, you should owe me $5. It was like, what? You're out of your mind. I don't pay my taxes either. The government's been looking for me since 2004. Wait, class? Yes, we are having class today. Today we are doing a history presentation on Ramesses II and Usurpation, which we are actually about to start any minute now. Freelance goes hard. I don't make enough money to pay taxes. I don't think that's how that works, Momo. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that's how that works. You left class earlier today and you're right back in it. Hey, Dark Wolf, welcome back. How you doing today? How's it going? Yeah, you guys better make sure you take notes. We will have a test on Monday, and as I said earlier, if you fail the test, if you get lower than a C, which is failing for this master's program, you will be mummified by the end of Monday's class. Skedaddle, skedoodle, Hara and Chat are cute noodles. Hey, Skeptic, you're also a cute noodle. How's it going? Welcome back. God damn it. Hey. Actually, you didn't say attempt, so it's fine. Yeah, you can keep saying that. You're good. Nope, I'm leaving class early again. Good luck. This will fail your grade. This will fail your grade. You already paid for it. Not school again. I know that a lot of people are actually like on spring break right now too and are about to be done with school as well. So this kind of fits. I wish I was cute. I am extremely cute. We know, Bread. We know. Oh, that's crazy. Well, that explains why, Momo, you don't live in the wasteland that is the US like I do. Fail this, teach? Oh, we're gonna start spitting in class? Okay, bet, F, and you get spit on. Puh. You don't know, Hara. I can assume. I seen the way you talk in chat. Nothing much. I saw that he was streaming and I thought I would pop in to listen. How are you? I'm doing pretty good, Dark Wolf. Thank you for asking. Hey, no eating it. Alright, people want you to spit on them. I don't understand though. Why? Should I do the ancient Egyptian way of showing disdain? Should I throw my sandals at them? Would that be better? Checkmate, teacher. Now I'm gonna sue you for sexual harassment. You spit on me first, so I'm actually suing you for sexual harassment. Hara makes me giggle, juggle, and wiggle. Why are you wiggling? What do I do that makes you wiggle? What if I give doodles? Will I get A's, Hawa? You won't get A's, but I will be if they're good enough, I will consider raising your score up a letter grade per test. Not the chancla! Yeah, the chancla! Hara gave me ADHD. Well, that makes sense. I'm pretty sure I have it. No, please, teacher, don't beat us. Oh my god, I hate you, Bestover. Don't point a gun at... Okay. I see we're getting violent in class now, really? We got away, fellas. You sure do. Y'all aren't making it out of the tomb with this one. Y'all sure aren't. I will also say, be reminded, we will be back on Sunday at 2 p.m. CST. We'll be playing War Thunder once again. So, hope you guys will join me for that. Okay. We've got about a minute left, and then I'm starting up the presentation, so you guys better behave, okay? No hitting the teacher. No yelling out during the presentation. What else? No using your cursed textbooks to summon demons from another plane. Can we start class? I'm about to start, Monastic. You got like 50 seconds. I say we rebel against Hara and worship a moon goddess instead. Oh yeah, name the moon goddess. Do it. Ow. The moon only gets their power from me, and I still hold up the moon. So nah. You suck. Moon gods suck. They just literally point a mirror at me and call themselves a god. It's just my brother and a Tim. A moon god is just me in different clothes. Alright, can I make a pen from a feather? Bread, I'm gonna be honest, dude. Have you seen these feathers? Hold on. Have you seen these feathers, man? I am 5'6", okay? I am 5'6". Do you have any idea how big of a pen that would be? Like, that's like a 2-foot long pen, dude. How are you gonna write with that? How are you gonna get your... Yeah, no, I'm looking back there, man. Yeah, no, you're not really gonna have the ability to. That's gonna be pretty rough for you. That's a tall turkey god. I'm not a turkey! Although my coloration does kind of look like it now that you mention it. I don't like that. Okay. We're officially getting started. Everybody get in your seats. Do you have wings? I do not have wings, actually. The way I fly is by heating the air around me to propel myself in directions. Class, take your seats. Everybody take your seats. No rabble-rousing. We're getting started, okay? All right. Everybody good? Everybody ready? Everybody got their books and their pens out? We good? Are we good to start? Hold on. Let me work on my PowerPoint real quick. I'll take my seat outside, then you'll take an F in this class, and you'll be held back a year. Again, Mongol. Again! Troublemakers. Okay. Let's get it started. Get my stuff up. Okay, and put me over here. And bam. Damn it, it's using the wrong one. Hold on. Not that one either. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Finally, can my puppy join us? Fine. I didn't bring my textbook? Oh my god. This is falling apart quick, dude. This is falling apart so quick. Never signed up for this class. I wanted the Asian dragon class. That doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Are you okay? Okay. Let's get started, worshippers, okay? Today, we will be discussing Ramesses II and Usurpation, a historiography on one of Egypt's most controversial pharaohs, all right? Oh my god. Everything is still fucking up. What is wrong with you today, computer? What's your deal? Why spike? Why break? What do? Hold on, give me 2 seconds. What is wrong with you? Actually, I better know what the issue is. I better know what the issue is today. I'll just have to deal with it. Wait, do you make like an actual test on Monday? Yeah, of course I do.
So I'm sitting there, Lunchables pizza sauce on my titties.
Yeah, what of it? Okay, let's get started. Oh, well, hold on. This is not gonna be as easy as I'd hoped. Okay, so, you might be asking yourself, what is a historiography? Well, a historiography is a comparison of prominent academic material encompassing a historical topic. The idea is to contrast points and topics arisen by academics from both the present and past, then apply possible biases to certain historians based off information about them. Finally, it is meant to establish a more balanced and equalized view of a topic based on these works. I'm gonna give you guys a moment to get your notes down, yeah? Okay. Now you might be asking, what is usurpation, Hara? Well, usurpation was the practice by some Egyptian rulers of replacing the names of predecessors with their own monuments, such as temple reliefs and royal statuary. Sometimes it was used to erase the existence of past rulers, other times it was used to honor them. That is what we will also be focusing on in this presentation. Rude. Y'all are rude. Y'all are really rude. I'm sorry. If this is boring, then leave. I worked hard on this, damn it. I'll have you guys know I worked really hard on this. Like, unironically, I spent like 30 hours working on this. Y'all better like it. Okay. Alrighty, so now that we have our terms understood, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Is there anything unclear about usurpation or historiography? It just means your voice is something I can sleep to. I take that as an insult. Pay attention to my work, damn it. This is my life's work, worshiper. Gummy. Gummy said derogatory. Everything, I am so confused. What's confusing, Bread? So what's confusing, friend? You're speaking hieroglyphics to me. I have zero clue what you're talking about. Okay, so I'll simplify it for you guys. So historiography is essentially where we take books made by professors, right? And we look at their opinions, okay? We essentially compare and contrast their opinions and then talk about what could have formed those opinions. That is essentially what historiography does. Hi, Scientific Anomaly. Welcome to the cult. How are you today? So that is what a historiography essentially is. The simplification is making me laugh. Yeah, I know. I'm really dumbing it down. And then usurpation, in the most watered down of terms, is essentially a pharaoh so there's a monument, right? There's a monument. Say that, you know, a pharaoh built an obelisk and then passed away with his name on it. A new pharaoh comes along and scratches out the name of the old pharaoh and then writes their name over it on the monument. That is essentially what usurpation is. What's a monument? Are you serious? Dude, I swear to God, George Bush in No Child Left Behind was the worst thing to ever happen to academics. You know what a monument is. I know you're kidding. Wait, that has actually happened before? We will actually get into that, Monastic, but yes, it has. Hi, Game Time. Welcome in. Put in anime terms. Usurpation is an abridged series. And historiography is a bunch of weebs talking about who's the best waifu. There. Does that help? Does that help? When do we get to the Brit shooting the dog? Wait, what? Wait, I'm intrigued now. What are you intrigued with? Is everything clear for everybody? Like, no joke, is everything clear for everyone? Are we able to move on to the next slide? Does everyone get... These are just the most basic of our first two terms, by the way. This is just the beginning. Everyone got it? Okay, we're up for the next slide. I can go? Okay, cool. What are we doing? Hi, Game Time. Today we're doing a historiographical presentation on usurpation and Ramesses II, if you want to join us. The dog is the cat pyramid statue thing. I didn't say this, by the way. I am RPing being stupid. Okay, Bread. Okay. Our next slide. Who was Ramesses II? Well, Ramesses II, also his actual Egyptian name, which was Uzurmatre Setepenre, also known as Ramesses the Great, Ozymandias, and the Great Ancestor, right? He was the third ruler of the 19th dynasty, the New Kingdom period, and reigned from 1279 to 1213 BC. Yeah, he do have his nippies hanging out, doesn't he? Doesn't look very cold, though. It's Egypt, so, you know, they're not like they're rock hard or nothing. Why he looks so annoyed? We can talk about that. Essentially, why a lot of ancient Egyptian statues of pharaohs looked like this was kind of to present a more regal, kingly aspect, because, you know, they're God-given powers, so. We are not passing the test, boys. Y'all aren't. It looks like he just lost 3K in blackjack. He kind of does look like he's just going like, well, I'm fucked. Wife's gonna kill me. I just bet the kids' college fund and lost. What museum is that statue in? Thank you for the follow, Death Magnetic. Welcome to the cult. The museum I actually don't know what museum that's in. If judging by the ceiling, though, if I had to make an educated guess, it'd probably be the British Museum. If I'm being honest, I made a lot of this presentation like a year ago, at least, so I'm actually not sure where a lot of the pictures come from. Is this a test? We learn from the slides and be tested? You sure do, buddy! Of course, it's the British Museum. I mean, yeah, obviously. Look, if there are ancient Egyptian artifacts, if it's not at the British Museum in Britain, it's in a couple in Austria or Germany, and then finally the rest are going to be in Cairo. That's just how it is. Or on site. Okay, so he was known as a war wager and peacemaker in Liberia, Nubia, Syria, and Canaan. He was also called an academic pariah, failure of a pharaoh, or could he possibly have been the man holding a failing empire together? He was also frequently called a master of ancient propaganda, as well as a monument thief. But he was also known as a monument maker when looking at things such as Ramesses, the city of Thebes, and the Ramesseum. Okay. I came late. I guess no mercy on me to be helped on questions I missed from the slide. I mean, we're just getting started. This is slide 2 game time. You haven't really missed anything. So, now we're going to focus on we're going back to point 1. Uzer Matre Setepenre. Every single pharaonic name has a meaning to it, a very important meaning, both kingly and religious. So, Uzer Matre stands for the righteousness of the sun is powerful, a dedication towards Ra. And then Setepenre means elect of Ra. So it's pretty straightforward. Fuck yeah, I'm passing. Let's go. The statue, according to Wiki, is in room 4, British Museum, London. Yeah, I was about to say, I've seen that ceiling before, and that looks exactly like the British Museum, so. Now, as for the nickname Ozymandias, Ozymandias was a very common nickname given to him by the Greeks, and is known as the focus of the Percy by Shelley poem by the same name, which reads as such. I met a traveler from an antique land, who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So, the meaning of this poem can honestly fit into a lot of things, can be interpreted in a lot of ways from Percy by Shelley, but essentially the poem fits the characteristics of Ramesses II in that some Egyptologists would apply to the pharaoh a king that had a sense of ego among a crumbling empire. This is a sentiment we will discuss, and a sentiment I will argue against later in this presentation. I bet he got a dumpy? Nah, his ass flat, dude. I've seen it. I've seen it. His dad, though, Seti the First. Whew, man, yeah. Hand up. All right, so we're gonna pause for questions. Do we have any questions so far? Questions? No shit. Wow, you really wanted him to have a dumpy that bad, huh? Why is the desert sandy? Well, I feel like that might be more of an ecologist's question. Gunmaster, welcome. It is sandy because it's essentially a bunch of wind and water erosion that has essentially crumbled large formations of stone into the desert through a combination of a hot climate that has killed off all vegetation. Ma'am, can I cop a handful of his dad's ass? Sure, if you can find his mummy. Is there anything after the New Kingdom? Perfect of you to ask, Perfys. We will actually be focusing on that in the next slide. On the test, everything will be just on the slideshow, not all that other bullcrap you're talking about. No, everything will be on. Everything will be on the test. Everything. The poem won't be, but More will be. New mission, get a handful. Okie doke. So we will move on to our next slide. This is a full Egyptian dynastic timeline, starting from 5500 BC to the up to the pre-dynastic period at 3500 BC. So if you want to take a look here, I'll use my pointer to show you guys. So this is the beginning of Egyptian society in the pre-dynastic period. This here at 2649 at the Old Kingdom is when the pyramids of Giza were built. And finally, right here at about 1500 is where the New Kingdom period begins. So that is the period we're currently talking about. Behind it, there's the Third Intermediate period, the Late period, and then finally the Greco-Roman period at 322 BC. How the fuck am I supposed to take notes about this? I mean, I think it's pretty easy. By the way, I was the class clown that had really good grades, though. As long as you have good grades, I don't care. And you have to be funny. No being a class clown and not being funny. I actually like learning Egyptian history more than being at work. Let's go! I'm glad you're enjoying it. Why was it called the Old and New Kingdom? What makes it separate? So essentially what makes the Old and New Kingdom different is essentially, honestly, that's a good question. I believe that the difference depends on kind of like essentially like the way that the pharaohs were looked at. It's essentially called the New Kingdom because of an intermediate period. Honestly, that's the best I can give you. I'm not quite sure. The designation was begun by an Egyptologist a long time ago. And I think it's just to break it up into piecemeal bite-sized bits so that everyone can digest it a little bit easier when it comes to it's just simple classification, I believe. But I think it's also because of like the dynasties that were involved, like actual dynasties of kings, as well as like the religion and the what is it called? The religion and the government documentation of the time. Like the way that the empire was run was different. Wasn't there a Middle Age? Yes, there's a Middle Kingdom that began at 2000. But they're each separated between intermediate periods. Was the New Kingdom after the Age collapse? I don't know why they separate it like that, lol. I believe so. I believe the Bronze Age collapse. That probably had to have been around the first intermediate period, if I had to guess. Actually, when was the Bronze Age collapse? You guys are all asking me questions of things that I haven't researched in a long time, so... These are good questions, though. I like it. It was the 12th century BC, so... That actually would have been... in between the New Kingdom and the Third Intermediate period. Let me check as to why, let me check why the classification is named as such. Ah, that is why. So the Old, Middle, and New Kingdom designate the three golden ages of Egypt. That's what it is. I knew it was something to do with the state of the empire. What city or kingdom had a huge volcano near it that erupted? That was Rome. That was Pompeii. Wasn't there a short period where Nubians ruled? What period was that in? You guys are asking me really hardball questions. The Nubians did actually have intermediary, there were pharaohs that were, like, briefly, pharaohs, but I don't think Nubia actually ever conquered Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it was the 25th dynasty. It was Kushite. So it was a combination of Nubian and Egyptian kingdoms during the 8th century BCE. So that would have been more towards the late period. Actually, almost the late period exactly. So. No, that was Egypt. Stop lying. It was Napoleon. Shut up. See you Monday, teach. Road. You're definitely not passing the class like this. Okay, so we're moving on to our next slide. This here is a timeline of kind of like, so if this is, So if this is the big timeline and this is where the New Kingdom is, this is us zooming in on the New Kingdom. So the New Kingdom consisted of the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties, right? This big green line right here during the 19th dynasty, which was what made up most of it, is Ramesses II, who we will be discussing today. His father was Seti I, and his grandfather was Ramesses I. That is why that is the 19th dynasty, is because everyone in this lineage was of the same bloodline as Ramesses I. But yes, as you can see up here, you have Amoza, Amenhotep I, Tutmosa. Tutmosa was seen as a really good, especially Tutmosa III was seen as a really good pharaoh for his time. Hatshepsut is right here, who reigned alongside Tutmosa III when Tutmosa was a child. Let's see here. We've got... there's King Tut. There's Tutankhamun right there. During the back end of the 18th. So if this is like giving you any inclination of where we're at, King Tut, this is after the time of King Tut would have ruled for a very short period. Then you have Horemheb, the last of the Ramesses during the 20th dynasties, which were all called Ramesses except for Sethnakht. Make time machine to get that handful? Oh my lord. Fred's all about that ancient pharaoh booty. Are the dynasties separated because the direct family line ended and a new family became pharaoh? Essentially. In essence, yes. Okay. So now that we've got our timelines established, our background as to where we are in, you know, kind of like in history, we're going to move ourselves on over to the Battle of Kadesh. So, think about it, new Twitch meta, seeing who can get the most rare handful and... Oh my gosh, excuse me, hiccups. Most rare handful in history? Yeah, really. Also, are they consistent with their names, or have they changed their names throughout their rule? Essentially, what would happen is, Perfies, is that you would be given a name at birth, and then you would adopt a pharaonic name, like Uzurmatre Setempa, whatever Ramses is, Setepinre, is what you would receive as a pharaonic name when you ascended to the throne, is essentially what would happen. And then usually, like, you would have another one, which was, you know, like your Ramesses, your Tutmosa, which was, like, kind of more of an appreciation of your forefathers. Why are we skipping everything before Ramesses II? Because we're discussing usurpation today, and Ramesses is the topic. I'm not gonna start from the beginning. If I start from the beginning of the ancient empire, we're gonna be here for forever. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So it is definitely my camera acting up. It's weird. I don't know what's wrong with it. That's really frustrating, actually. Hold on. For some reason, my iPhone camera is losing tracking on me today. Can you work, please? Are you smudged? Okay. Make sure no glare. Yeah, there shouldn't be one, but who knows? It might be... Hold on, it might be my candle. Maybe that might help a little bit. Doesn't look like it, but whatever. Lights on. I'm not sure what's up. Okay, anyway. Moving on. So, we are now at the Battle of Kadesh, which is essentially the most important part for Ramesses II's rule, right? So, the Battle of Kadesh itself is dated to around 1274 BC, where the Egyptian and Hittite empires collided at the Orontes River, now located in modern-day Lebanon and Syria. The goal of Ramesses II was much like his father, Seti I, which was to restore Egypt to its former glory, create a buffer between Egyptian holdings in Canaan and the Hittites, and hopefully reverse an empire that was currently in its decline. The Hittites, in contrast, were led by King Muwatalli II, who fought to defend their border city of Kadesh and hold on to the disputed region that had been exchanged between the two empires for over a century. Yeah, maybe recalibrating would help. That's not a bad idea, actually, now that I think about it. You're not wrong there. Okay. Hopefully that fixes it. So, what names would be written in official documents? It would be your pharaonic name. So, like, it would be like Ramesses II, which in Egypt would have been Uzurmatre Setepenre. I believe that's how that works. Yes, it would be the name that they got when they were pharaoh. And we'll actually discuss that as well. There is a historical event that is commonly used, frequently used in burials in specific documents called king lists that we will focus on as well at some point today. So, any questions about essentially what I've said here, which is, you know, the battle was 1274. Egyptian and Hittites collided at the Orontes. Ramses' reasons were to create a buffer between the Egyptian Empire and the Hittite Empire, as well as reverse an empire in its decline through essentially having, like, taking up a moral win. Meanwhile, Muwatalli sought to defend their border city, hold on to the disputed region that had been exchanged for over a century, and essentially repulse Egyptian invaders. Any questions? Honestly, very fitting music. How big were each armies? We will get to that, actually, just in a moment. Okay. Speaking of which, the battle itself is thought to be the largest chariot battle of the ancient world, with an estimate of 5,000 to 6,000 chariots taking part. It began as the Hittites crossed the river, as can seen here by the red line. Right here. There we go. This red line crossed the river and ambushed an Egyptian division known as the Ra Division returning to camp, resulting in the Egyptians rushing to reinforce from their camp located here, which was the Amun Division, where Ramesses was located at the time. So, in the chaos, the Hittite chariots then ran northward and ran their way through the camp as well. So it was practically a full rout. Having believed the battle to be over, however, as the Egyptian camp had been all but destroyed, the Hittite chariots had dismounted to loot their winnings, because essentially that was very commonplace in ancient warfare. Not noticing a counterattack led by Ramesses II, the Hittites were then subsequently pincered by Ramesses' counterattack and the advance of another Egyptian division from the south, known as I think it was the Ptah Division, pushing the attackers backwards through the Orontes. SG-1 is my first-hand source to Egyptian history. That's funny. Were there also any other kingdoms caught in between? There weren't any kingdoms caught between this direct conflict, but there were a lot of vassal states that were on both sides. Because I believe that Egypt, even the depiction at Kadesh, he talks about Nubian riders that he had with him. Are there any questions about the battle itself? Like, I know it's a rather quick discussion. We'll get to who won in a moment, because that is its own complicated topic. But yes, to put in perspective, like, these are very big battles. Like, 5,000 to 6,000 chariots is massive. That is an incredible army for either empire to forge at this time. And essentially is a big reason of why this was such a hotly... It shows why this was such a hotly contested area. You mentioned being the largest chariot battle. Were there infantry and archers and such? There likely were. Typically at this age, chariots were extremely common, and chariot-on-chariot battles were not uncommon. Especially considering Ramesses himself was also in a chariot. That is also to say, you might be asking, Hara, that doesn't make any sense. When the Hittites thought they won, why did they dismount to loot? That seems really stupid of them. Why did they do that, right? Well, with the way that ancient warfare worked, the common practice was that you didn't have a salary as an infantryman or as a soldier. Essentially what happened is that you were guaranteed essentially a share of the loot that was picked up at the end of the battle, and you would sell off whatever you got. Naturally, people being people, as soon as the battle was over, you wanted to be first to run over there and possibly stuff some extra shit in your pockets before everybody else got to it. That way you can make off with a little bit more cash after your battle, you know? And that wasn't just for the Hittites and Egyptians, that was done across the entire ancient world, and was very common up until salaries became a thing with the Roman Empire. It happened with the Greeks, it happened with Macedonians, it happened with Persians, almost everybody did it. It was very, very, very common. They were throwing. Oh yeah, they were definitely throwing. They threw the fight, that's for damn sure. Okay, any more questions? Do we have any more questions from anybody before I continue on? I don't want to keep you guys like too suspensed in with who won the battle. Okay, good to know. So you might be wondering, who won? Right? Who wins? Ramses got his pincer attack, but did he win? Well, Ramses, depicted at Abu Simbel, one of his temples located in the Upper Kingdom, proclaimed that he had routed his enemies. His legend states that he rode alone past his fleeing forces, charging the enemy by himself on his chariot with only bow and staff in hand. He slaughtered the army of the Hittites, who were as more numerous than the sands of the shores, a quote, on his own, due to his divine, God-given power against the wickedness of his enemies. This is discussed on his memorial temple at the Ramesseum, known as the Poem of Pentower, and is depicted here where Ramesses II is slaying one enemy while trampling another, from a rock-cut relief at the temple at Abu Simbel. So this is Ramesses II up here, and this is him equipped with his staff, and he is smiting one, here, well, hold on, I can't really get out of your way here, there we go, that helps a little bit, smiting one Hittite, who is praying for mercy, and then he is trampling the other one under his foot here. He was giving him real big steppies. What did the chariots of the period look like? I mean, chariot design kind of stayed the same up until the Roman period. So if you've ever seen a Roman period chariot, it's essentially the same. The only difference was that there were always two riders. You had one typically driving the chariot, directing the horses, and then you essentially had another that acted as like the archer or the spearman. Hi, Mr. Weeb 3.0. Welcome to the cult. I hope you enjoy your stay. Okay, so now we will focus on the Poem of Pentower itself. So the poem reads as such: when His Majesty charged into the midst of the foe, the Hittite enemy, and the many foreign countries which were with him, His Majesty was like Sutek, the great in strength, like Sekhmet at the time of her raging. For His Majesty slaughtered the foe of the wretched enemy of Hatti in its entirety, together with his great ones and his brethren in their entirety likewise, and all the princes of every foreign country who came with him, and their infantry and their chariotry fallen on their faces one on another. His Majesty was slaying among them, and His Majesty was casting them down in heaps of corpses before his horses. Although His Majesty was alone, no other with him, His Majesty was casting down the foe, the Hittite enemy, upon their faces, one on another, plunging into the water of the Orontes. Hi, bye, see ya. Now, he then goes on, Ramesses himself makes his own script that he writes at Abu Simbel, where he states in first person, I vanquished all foreign countries, although I was alone, although my infantry and my chariotry had deserted me, and not one of them halted to return. For I was after them like a griffin, I swear, as I live, as Ra loves me, and as my father Atem favors me, that as for every matter which my Majesty has said, I did it in truth, in the presence of my infantry and my chariotry. Was the Hatti just another name for the Hittites? It was, yes. Sounds like bro's got an ego issue. He does a little bit. And we will be talking about that in a little bit. However, the Hittites also seem to have claimed victory, having kept the Egyptians from actually taking Kadesh and pushing the Egyptians deeper into Canaan just after the battle. Few texts exist from the Hittite perspective, but it is marked as an important milestone of the empire, signaling a sense of victory. That's what got him. Actually, he lived a very long life, and I think he died of old age. Very happy, probably. Died at 30? Ramesses II? Are you sure? I don't think that's right, considering he ruled from 1279 to 1213 BCE. That's a fat 66 years. No, I'm just being goofy. Okay. I was about to say, I was like, I'm pretty sure he had a really long reign. Okay. So, do we have any questions about the battle itself? The effects seem to be contentious. Both believe they won, but it was kind of like a draw, in a way. It was a defeat in the sense that Ramesses failed to take his goal, which was Kadesh, and the Hittites were right claiming victory for defending it, but he did also technically win the battle. Because even though he wins this battle, he is forced to retreat after the end of it. Because of how many forces he just happened to apparently lose. Okay, no questions? Alright, moving on. Tactical victory but strategic loss, essentially. He won the battle but lost the dispute. That's essentially what happened. He won the battle but lost the border dispute. Okay. I find it funny when documentaries are like, and for the first time, this person lived for a very long time, to the old age of 32. Yeah, that's true, Brad. Okay. Regardless of the outcome, a peace treaty would finally be struck between the two empires just 15 years later, between Ramesses II and the new Hittite king, Hattusili III. This was known as the Eternal or Silver Treaty, which ended the border disputes. It is the oldest documented peace treaty in history, and was caused by Ramesses II finally gaining the upper hand in the region. It took him 15 years, but he did eventually get the upper hand. This cemented the legitimacy of the new Hittite king and allowed the pharaoh to end the costly foreign wars he had been waging for the past 20 years and shift his focus to domestic infrastructure and his own monuments. How long did it actually end a dispute? I'm pretty sure the Hittites and the Egyptians didn't ever fight again, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken there, but it was actually a long time. It was at least a very long time, because Ramesses ruled for another. This was 1274 BC. He ruled until 1213, so that's at least 61 years of peace. That's a very long time, especially for the ancient world. Yeah, that's 61 years. That's a good peace treaty. Regardless if it lasted forever. I can't remember. The Hittite Empire might have fallen before they clashed again. But I'm unsure. Because you have to remember that also to the east of the Hittites and the Egyptian conflict were the Assyrians and Babylonians. So, who were nothing to fuck with themselves. What language did the Hittites use? I think they had their own language. I think it was Hittite, if I'm not mistaken. It was called Nasit. Yeah, Nasit. But yes, they had their own language. Also funny how after a big war, they were like, "Alright, make my country better. US, wait. Us, though, let's just become the most greedy-ass motherfuckers." Yeah, pretty much. You're not wrong. It was a lot of consolidation of money. That's for sure. Okay. So now we're going to move to essentially his works. Let's see here. All right. So now that we're done with his the Battle of Kadesh, we're now going to focus on Ramses' great works. So one such work that was begun during his conflict and was finished afterwards with the Hittites was his new capital, Ramesses, as depicted on the left side picture. He moved the capital of the empire to this city as he grew up here, and likely built upon its foundations that were likely set by Ramesses I and his father, Seti I. So his grandfather and father essentially probably started the building of this area, and then he decided that he would go through and increase its size because he grew up there. It was his hometown, and then essentially make it the capital. The heck? Man, what is wrong with you, VTube Studio? Are you okay, buddy? Actually, it might be my internet. Anyway. Your stream video keeps freezing? Yeah. It might be my internet. My internet might be poopy. It does suck, though, if it is actually freezing, though. You refresh and get an ad? Ouch. What is Ramesses called now, or did it get abandoned? Where is it on a map? So it does not exist anymore. Ramesses is no longer a city. All that's left are a little bit of ruins. It's on the Nile Delta is where it's located. Kind of, so if you're looking at like a picture of Egypt and you see the Nile Delta, it is on the eastern side of the Delta, right towards where the Delta funnels into the single line that is the Nile. It's like right there. What's over it now is just a small farming village, from what I understand. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna swap something real quick and see. Might not, but you never know if you don't try. Oh, give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna put us on. Be right back. I need to take a break anyway to get some water, and then we'll continue. Oh shit. Well, maybe not. Hi, Raiders! Welcome in, everybody! Oh, shit, a double raid! Hi, friends! Welcome, everybody. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tar, and thank you, Yuri, for the raids. Everybody, welcome in. Hi, friends. My name's Hara Raysol. I'm an Egyptian Peregrine sun goddess, and today we are focusing on a historical presentation that I'm making for everyone on Ramesses II and Usurpation. We're about to take a, yeah, I know, we're about to take a quick break, because I need to fix my VTube studio. Something's going wrong with it, and I need to get some water. But we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. We have more to talk about. Be right back, friends. Somebody go nowhere, okay? I'll know if you leave. I'm literally still watching the class, okay? Don't go anywhere. Shit. back to it, okay? So we were talking about Ramesses, correct? So, essentially, Ramesses is depicted here. He moved the capital of the empire to the city as he grew up here, likely built upon the foundations by his grandfather, Ramesses I, and his father, Ramesses I, or Seti I. This position allowed for Ramesses' invasions against the Hittites and others in Anatolian Asia to be supplied and reinforced as it shortened the length of his wartime supply lines. It was home to over 300,000 Egyptian citizens and flourished for over a century after the pharaoh's passing. Oh, thank you, Brett. I'm happy you enjoy it. But I will say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Even when I'm not at a stopping point, I am going to continue to stop and, like, read them back, so. But do we have any questions? So, like, the importance of Ramesses, somebody asked where its location was. Like I said, it's the east side of the delta. And essentially, being on the east side of the delta, it was closer to Canaan, so that's why it was made the capital. So that way the military could function out of it and better reinforce Canaan in these border disputes. Hey, Mav! Welcome in! How are you? How are you? I probably should have... done this real quick. Okay. Do you know if Pi had any significance once Rome came or anything with Greece? I would imagine because of its location, it would have been probably an okay trade center. But overall, the trade centers themselves would have been focused more on the coast, like the north coast, on the sides of the delta, rather than where it was in the center. Frankly, it was probably more of a religious hub than anything because of its location and it being a capital for a short time. But it was not uncommon for the citizenry to move with the pharaoh, because much like Rome, the pharaoh bankrolled a lot of Egyptian society, just like how the Roman emperor bankrolled a lot of Roman society. So essentially what likely happened is that wherever the pharaoh moved, a lot of people followed as well, because he was, you know, he provided. About when did it get mostly abandoned? Probably, definitely nearing, let's see, let's go back to the timeline. Today it is completely abandoned. It is just essentially, there's just a farming village over it now. But I forget the name of it. It starts with a Q. It's like Quateri or something like that. Quatsi, I can't remember. But it's a very, very small village. And there's very little left. I think that they've only found like the base stones and some walls of the city. And that's quite literally all they've found. I would imagine that if we're looking at the main timeline here, if it lasted for a century after his death, which would have been 1213, probably gone. It was probably abandoned during the Third Intermediate period. Hey, Last Crusade, it has been a bit. How you doing? Welcome in. What was life like during Ramesses II if you were born into a lower class? Typically, if you were born into a lower class, if you were male, essentially you would farm during the farming seasons, and then you would likely, you would farm during the farming seasons. A lot of it would be subsistence. And sometimes you would have enough to sell for a little bit of extra coin or, you know, money or trade for other things. It was very barter at this point. I don't think coins and an actual, like, gold economy were in Egypt yet, but that might be incorrect. I'm not quite sure on that one. But it was still likely used for barter. And then when it wasn't the farming season, which would be typically in the summer, you would be paid by the pharaoh in food, drink, and other amenities to essentially assist in building monuments. So that is actually a big myth about ancient Egypt, is that it's believed that mostly slaves were the ones building monuments, but that's actually not true at all. It was actually typically Egyptian citizenry and artisans working together, bankrolled by the pharaoh. And it would be bankrolled not by money or a salary, but by, like, when you got done with your hard day's work, you came home and you got, like, essentially filet mignon and expensive ass wine and beer is what you got for free. That is what you were served and made. You were given lodging as well. So if you didn't have a house and you were extremely poor, those working projects were probably a godsend. What monuments did Ramesses II commission? We will actually get to that in a moment with the Ramesseum. And was there any room to move up in Egyptian society? There was, but we will reach that in a moment as well. It was typically through literacy, Bread. I had to take a break from schoolwork when I saw you were going to stream history again. Well, I'm happy that you came to hang out last crusade. We're about halfway through the background, but we'll be getting to the historiography here in a bit. Or if you had to guess, what time of Egyptian citizens had the most prosperous times in movement? It would be during the Old, Middle, and New Kingdom in late period. It would be during the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom, because that was the golden ages of Egypt, and if the pharaoh was rich, you were rich. You have to remember that much like Rome as well, there were festivals like all the damn time. Obviously, 90% of them were religious related, and that was just the pharaoh essentially shelling out a fuck ton of money for everyone to hand out free food, which is essentially what it would be. Like, we're talking like some celebrations were weeks, where like everyone's in the cities just like, come fucking drink and eat, dude. Just whatever you want. It's on the pharaoh. And that's essentially how it worked. A lot of like the nice amenities were simply paid to you instead of like a salary or like money or anything like that. Like the African king that broke people's economy because he was balling, that is Mansa Musa. But yes, he was so rich that he came into the markets of Cairo and spent so much gold that it crashed the gold economy in Egypt. Yep, it sure did. For a couple years, it made gold not worth a whole lot. Okay, so returning, we're going back to the Ramesseum. So, the Ramesseum is a memorial temple and monument site located across from the Nile, across the Nile from the city of Luxor. It was both an ancient city and a modern city. On top of the site of a much older shaft tomb from the Middle Kingdom. So that is another reason to play into Ramesses' ego. It is apparent that he didn't much care for a pharaoh from the Middle Kingdom when he probably likely found that tomb and said, we're building my nice-ass memorial temple complex over it. Who cares? Originally called, now this one's a doozy, the House of Millions of Years of Usurpation Seten Penra that unites with Thebes the city in the domain of Atem. That was its original title. It was meant to be the reigning pharaoh's memorial temple to keep his memory alive long after his passing. It adheres to the standard of New Kingdom temples with a 48-column filled hall, 2 60-meter wide stone gateways, 2 courtyards, an inner sanctuary, a massive statue of Ramesses II, and then across from that statue, an opulent palace. The pylons and walls of the temple discuss his achievements, most notably the Battle of Kadesh, as well as conquering a city known as Shalem, which some believe in current academics to be Jerusalem, an ancient Jerusalem in Canaan. The entire structure itself is decorated with hieroglyphs crafted by individual workmen, likely accurately painted and adored with gold, judging by I think it's 39 of the 48 pylons that still remain to this day inside the hall. Fuck you, Ram 2, lower your ego. Yeah, that is a contention that we will find that a lot of historians and Egyptologists feel is that he was very full of himself. Guess there's a reason this dude's name survived the Arabization of Egypt. That's true. That is why he is known as Ramesses the Great. It was mostly through his own propaganda. Bro wins one fight and stops a war and thinks he's hot shit. You might have a reason to back it up, Brad. Your opinion might change by the end of this presentation. Okay. So, we will now move on to the next slide. Now, you might be wondering what the hell does this mean, and we will get to it in a moment. Another reason why academics debate Ramesses II's quality as a pharaoh has a lot to do with the quality of the artistic depictions of Ramesses' monuments and temples. The debate around this sits in what are known as sunken and raised reliefs when it comes to hieroglyphic. God, I had the word, my mind gave up. When it comes to hieroglyphic depictions, there we go, hieroglyphic depictions. The first type can be seen here. The raised relief was used before the time of Ramesses II and is perceived as the higher quality version of the two, as more stone is having to be chiseled out. The result is a relief that looks both more natural, is harder to paint but looks better painted, and signifies a care for the ancient artistry of the monument. In contrast, actually, I guess I'll focus on this slide first. So, this form, raised relief, was before the Ramesside period, which obviously started with Ramses II and Ramses I. Wilson, who is one of the Egyptologists that we will be discussing later today, describes it as higher quality, as well as it having a sense of harmony, dignity, and poise. And it is the artistic counterpart to sunken relief. The next slide is sunken relief. So I'm going to give you guys a quick comparison so you can look at the two and make your own judgments. Raised relief, sunken relief. And this was the one that is considered lower quality but more utilitarian. Okay. The result is a relief that looks both more natural, sort of. Okay. In contrast is sunken relief as pictured here. This is its opposite. Much like when making a stamp, it looks a bit crude, is easier to paint and easier to carve, and requires less professionalism from the worker who is completing it. This is the more utilitarian version, one that undoubtedly cost much less and took less time to create. The reason as to why Ramesses was the first to do this will be further discussed in the historiography section. As located here, it was lower quality but more utilitarian as it saved cost and time. Trade's artistic style for efficiency was disliked by Wilson but liked by the other academic we'll be focusing on today, Tildesley. God, I'm so bad at saying her name. And Wilson described these as both febrile and brittle in quality. So yeah. Any questions about raised and sunken relief? Anything that sticks out to you notably? Hey Adrian, how's it going? But we will go into later, like, the importance of why Ramses made this swap and how that affected the perception of hieroglyphic artistry after him. So, that will be in due time. That's more towards the end of the paper, but we will get there. No questions? No questions? I see no hands. Okay. Moving on. What is our next slide? Okay, so yes, we will get to this in a moment then. I need to finish this section first. Oh, oops. Getting a little ahead of myself. Pressing the wrong buttons. Okay. Now that the background for who Ramesses was and why he's important, God, that was a poorly written sentence. Now that the background for who Ramses was has been established and why he is important, it is now worth focusing on how pharaohs were seen by their citizens. Pharaohs themselves were thought to be part of a spiritual lineage that traced all the way back to the first and greatest pharaoh, the god Horus, the sky god Horus. Horus was fabled to have defeated his uncle Set and unite Egypt before becoming the god of the sky and the holder of both the sun and moon. Each pharaoh was believed to be divinely chosen at the beginning of time by the creation god Atem to be the new physical manifestation of Horus in life, then a manifestation of the god of death, Osiris, in death. This means that all pharaohs, regardless of time and place, were seen as pieces of Horus, who were all related in some fashion. A new Horus would take the throne once his past body failed him. This was so keenly important in ancient Egypt that every pharaoh made sure to constantly align themselves with Horus as a way to establish divine right in every action they took. Divine right and divine authority. How long is the lesson, by the way? Because I will be out for an hour at 11:50, about 2 hours from now. We are on page 5 of 21 for my script. So if that tells you anything. So we're about an hour. We've been doing this for about an hour now. Because I think we started about the hour mark. So if that's by anything, it'll take about 2 to 3 hours. Falcon beats Hippo, let's go. It sure does. Actually, Adrian, I don't know if you know this, but Set actually wasn't depicted as a hippo. Set is the only ancient Egyptian god that is depicted by a non-existent animal, by a fictional animal. Sorry, it's all good, Bread. The VOD will be up and I'll put it up on YouTube. You're all fine, hun. 521 on Fathom Me Blaze? What do you mean 521? Huh? Interesting, right? Which is also funny because the animal that Set depicts is actually a Greek concept, or at least the only, like, actual explanation we have is from Greek mythology. But Set definitely predates it, obviously. Okay. 5 out of 21 pages. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Crusade. I took a lot of time writing this, if you can't tell. 21 pages is a lot. Okay. So, back to the paper. I'm going to repeat the last sentence, and then that way we can remind ourselves where we're at. This was so keenly important in ancient Egypt that every pharaoh made sure to constantly align themselves with Horus as a way to establish divine right in every action they took. This was often communicated to the citizenry through memorial hieroglyphic texts, which were utilized to the royalty's full advantage, as most of ancient Egypt was illiterate. Estimates range from 80 to 95%. Oftentimes, in ancient Egyptian texts, special symbols existed to indicate to readers who was the hero, his followers, and the enemy, as well as distinctly important scenes. The few that were literate were often held higher in ancient Egyptian society, and also were held close to the pharaoh by being scribes or artisans that literally wrote on the walls of monuments for the pharaoh himself, essentially bankrolled by him. Considering the preferential treatment from the ruling class, it became quite easy for these groups to toe the cultural line and support their pharaoh. This matters when it comes to the Egyptian perception of usurpation, because it could be argued that pharaohs saw the practice as simply updating their name on their previous monuments. The past pharaoh was Horus, and now the current pharaoh is Horus. Horus can't steal from Horus. No harm, no foul, and the citizenry did not understand enough to find a problem with usurpation, even if there would have been a negative cultural perception around it. Having sufficiently explained the needed background for today's academic discussion, we can now focus on the prevailing academic arguments that have split historians on how to classify Ramesses II. Was he truly the greatest incarnation of Horus, or was he a brat that cared for nothing but his ego and image? Okay, so now that we're done with our background portion, we will now focus on the historiography section, which will be the remaining bulk of this discussion. Is there any other questions that we have about background? Is there anything that seems unexplained, that you might have questions about or seems a little murky? This is the time to do it, because when we get into the historiography, we're going to be slinging a lot of terms. Just letting you guys know. A lot of terms, a lot of events. Pretty much everything that we've just covered will be spoken of at least over 2 or 3 times in this historiography. Brat just like me, hey, yeah, and me, hey! Little do they know the original Horus was also a giant brat, yeah! That's me, baby! They tried, by the way, make note, they are definitely emulating me. They are all doing their best to emulate me. Hi, Lascar, welcome back. Okay, so we still have no questions? No questions, no questions? I'm not seeing any hands, so are we all good? Alrighty then. We are moving on. Finally, we are reaching the historiography section. Okay, so for a quick rundown, we will be focusing on 4 different Egyptologists. Okay. We'll be focusing on 4 different Egyptologists today. And their classifications, essentially, of Ramesses right here laid out in a broad context, and then we will get to the meat and potatoes as we move along. So, the first person we'll be focusing on is Wilson. He describes Ramesses as arrogant, and kind of has a negative perception of him. Definitely dislikes him, that's for sure. The second will be Tildesley, which I spelled her name wrong on that slide there. Oops. The E and L should be replaced or swapped. And essentially, she has a lot of reverence for the pharaoh, for his efficiency and utilitarianism that she finds. Then we will have Murnane, which focuses more on Ramesses' success as a ruler, and then Brand, who focuses on Ramesses as a standard that all subsequent pharaohs would try to emulate. I don't know if this isn't good manners, but did you see DJ Peach Cobbler's video on Egypt? I have not, but you're perfectly fine for asking, Last Crusade. Peach Cobbler makes some good videos, but he definitely has some weird takes about things. I liked his video on Hernan Cortez, and the journey to the new world, but he has some opinions that I really don't agree with, not only in a history fashion, but in other ways. Teacher, when will you talk about all the conspiracy theories and debunk them? Oh, that was the stream from last month, Lascar. If you want to check that out, we unironically did actually have a conspiracy theory stream that is up on my YouTube right now. The VOD, actually, wait. Is it up? I think I put it up. It should be on my YouTube. So yeah, if you want to watch that, you're more than welcome to do that right after this. That was also a very fun, entertaining stream. I would recommend it. Yeah, he definitely had, like, chip eating takes. Yeah, definitely staring at him eating chips kind of thing. Like, no offense to DJ Peach Cobbler. I'm sure he's not a bad person, but he seems like somebody whose politics, like, really influence the way they look at history. And I don't super agree with that. So, all offense? I mean, it's a different way to approach history. I just don't agree with it. All offense, that is. Okay, so we are now going to focus on the historiography section of this presentation. So, does anyone remember? I gotta make sure everyone remembers. What is it? What is a historiography? Anyone remember? We did it at the start of the presentation to make sure you guys know. You can give me a quick rundown. It can be super numbed down, doesn't matter. What is a historiography? Forgive him, he's Texan, white male. I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. I'm not gonna be the kind of person to say, like, he doesn't deserve a platform. Ain't nothing wrong with being Texan white male. It's just, I just don't agree with his opinion. That's it. Anyone? Anyone remember the term historiography? Have you watched Mini Minuteman? He has some pretty well-researched videos on archaeology and history. I do not. I have not. What does he usually focus on? I mean, obviously archaeology and history, but like what time periods? Yes, what is it, Brad? Comparing other historians' takes. Okay, thank you. Yes, that is correct. You're getting 2 bonus points on your test for that. And then going, I bozo. Yeah, definitely then going, I bozo. Oopsie daisies. Okay. So, we are now officially beginning the historiography portion of this presentation. So, excuse me, I gotta clear my throat. It's about to do a lot of talking. The Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses II is a controversial figure in the academic community due to his dual reputation as a great pharaoh that sustained an Egyptian empire on the brink of collapse, and as a ruler that may have been an immature, ineffective, and unsuitable candidate for such a title as Ramesses the Great. At the forefront of this debate is the notable depictions of Ramesses II in his monuments, inscriptions, and bandeau texts that depict him as a king of many strengths and a few failures. Such depictions are hotly debated, as their historical accuracy is often put into question, causing debate over what could be considered historical fact. This is exacerbated by Ramesses II's common practice of claiming the monuments of earlier rulers and even using some of these earlier works as building material for his own monuments and temples. He focuses on your favorite time period along with a lot of debunking conspiracy theories. Oh, I'll definitely have to check him out then. Thank you, Lascar. Hi, Artie! How is the bird spicy? I'm always spicy. This presentation hopes to compile a short list of authors and works to better explain the topic of Ramesside usurpation under one historiography. It will achieve this by highlighting not just one, but multiple facets of the topic that surround this issue and display the main points of contention, scholarly opinions on those points, and the assumptions that influence such positions. utilizing 5 separate sources, 2 books and 3 journal articles. Perspectives from multiple positions have been incorporated to debate the decline of artistic standards under Ramesses II and the usurpation of monuments in the context of Egyptian culture. The term usurpation involves a pharaoh erasing the cartouches that contained the birth and throne names of the original creator, then inscribing their own to claim a monument or grand work. How, I ask? Naturally, baby! Would you ask the sun why it's hot? Because natural, baby. I'll send you a link to his channel if you can't find it. I got you. I should be able to, but thank you, Lascar. That's very sweet of you. I'll definitely check him out. Okay. So, the first person in this historiography that we will be focusing on today is John A. Wilson and his book, The Burden of Egypt. Hey! No taking the crown, what the heck? I'm trying to do a presentation here, Artie. Don't make me give you a bad grade. I'll give you thank you. I will give you a bad grade, though. Don't make me hold you back another year, Artie. Everyone in here has been held back a year. I know y'all have, so you better listen up. Okay, so our first focus today will be John A. Wilson's The Burden of Egypt. I haven't. What the heck? I don't believe you. Otherwise, why else would you be in here? Fine, I'll behave. Thank you. The first source is Wilson's The Burden of Egypt, which is an all-encompassing book about the events of nearly every Egyptian pharaoh. Wilson's position on Ramesses II has a more critical note, and it begins with his discussion of the pharaoh's prehension to utilize the building materials of older rulers for his own monuments and temples. He goes into great detail, discussing the vast size of Ramesses II's works, which include a 90-foot tall colossus at Tanis, another 1,000-ton colossus at the mortuary temple, the Ramesseum, the cliff temple at Abu Simbel in Nubia, and the hypostyle hall at Karnak. These works were no small task to be carved, moved, and planned, with each inspiring a sense of awe simply through their size alone. However, Wilson has a criticism for each structure, and finds it important to include each seemingly dismissive cut at the end of each example. I just got here, that's how hard. I don't believe you. For the cliff temple at Abu Simbel, he concedes by calling it majestically impressive, but also notes that it was a useless facade and lacked any functional space. Another example is Hypostyle Hall at Karnak, in which Wilson once again concedes that it is one of the greatest emotional experiences in Egypt, but again criticizes it as a shoddily built temple with subpar carvings. Damn, he really called it mid. The general presentation of Ramesses II's works by Wilson is that the artistic quality of all of his monuments and works were subpar, as the vast size and quick construction were prioritized. You think I'm stupid? Is that why you don't think I haven't been held back? Say I'm stupid. Don't lie to me. I think you're all stupid. But I love you for it. I love you for it. I mean, let's be honest. I'm a goddess with thousands of years of experience and knowledge about the universe. Do you not think I wouldn't find every mortal kind of a little bit dumb? Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. It's hard not to. You guys do fight over dumb stuff. Yeah. You know more than me? Like what? Name one thing. I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all, actually. Literally zero belief. I hold no belief over you. Okay. But I'm not immortal. Why am I dumb? Oh, well, that's just because you're Artie. No offense, Artie. Look, we've talked about this. We had a dumb off and you won. Like, it's not my fault. Like, I lost with grace. Let me take that L. I major in history. It's my passion. I ain't dumb unless it's subject about ancient Egypt. Fine. I might need to give you guys a little bit more credit. I'm dumb. Nuh-uh. I bet my brain is way smoother than yours. No way! Not in a million, billion, trillion years, dude. You forget that my brain's so smooth and so perfectly curved that it forms a sphere so perfect that a black hole is created from it. I'm getting the fiddle out and we're solving this the old-fashioned way. I'm an Egyptian god, not a Christian one. Okay. Another comparison he gives is that between the 19th and 20th dynasty, tombs with their earlier counterparts. Wait, what? Oh, another comparison he gives is that between the 19th and 20th dynasty are tombs with their earlier counterparts. Wilson explains that compared to the Old Serenity, this is a quote, Old Serenity, which we believe to have been truly and natively Egyptian, had changed to something that was lacking the meaning of eternity and was now produced in a way that was febrile and brittle quality. It also lacked the harmony, dignity, and poise of the pre-Amarna period, nor the high quality of Hatshepsut. I've said it a billion times and now it's hard. And Amenhotep III. It's been called a marble before. Nah, I'm not bragging. Well, I am. I always brag. Okay. So, while Wilson's opinion is purely subjective, what is not subjective is the reason for this supposed degradation in art. It is quite possible that the value given to such inscriptions in Egyptian society was the power it held through its practical use rather than the artistic. The concept of something like poise or harmony likely did not matter to the worker that chiseled the inscriptions. Rather, their work on grand monuments that were ever increasing in size were finished. The reason for such art was not for expression's sake, a key element that drives an artist to innovate. Rather, it had practical uses to Egyptian society that went against artistic innovation or liberty and favored simply getting the quota done for the day. Hey, Veril! Do we have any questions so far about Wilson's perceptions and opinions on the creation of Ramesses' structures? Can I have a cookie? Yeah, sure. Somebody brought them in from the last class. They kind of left them in here, so they're all yours. Wilson sounds like a snooze at parties. Maybe. I will say, he does have some interesting points. When did he write the book? Give me a moment. I could actually tell you that. I'll have to look at the bottom. What page are we on again? Let me save my point. Like my spot. Thank you for the tithe. Okay, so this is page 9. This book was written in 1951. Well, we're going from, if I believe I'm correct. So, Wilson's, which is the oldest, was in 1951. The newest is Brand's, which was in 2010. And then Tildesley's was the second youngest at 2001. And then Murnane's was in 95. So, yeah, I just want to see the perception change as the books got newer. Exactly, and we will find that out here soon enough. Okay. Just listening, bitch, don't kill my vibe while attending awesome history lesson. I'm glad you're enjoying it so much, Bread. Wilson sounds like the kind of guy that would hear a "why'd the chicken cross the road" joke and proceed to tell me why it did and the reasons the chicken was a sham. That's true. But I think it is very interesting to look at these points, because essentially, like, I mean, kind of put yourself in the shoes of an ancient carver of essentially, hieroglyphics. Like, imagine essentially having to do these temples that were already pretty big, in this relief style that took more time and more effort. And then all of a sudden, the new pharaoh wants you to do a temple twice as big. And like, you gotta get it done before he dies this time. So like, you're gonna have a really hard time doing it. You gotta meet your quota. You're not gonna care about chiseling out more stone and making it look good. I feel like Wilson would try and make Rick and Morty philosophical and more deep than it is. Hi, Natsuya Shiba. Welcome in. How you doing today? Doomsday by MF Doom now. Ooh, great song, Bread. As long as he doesn't believe aliens influence anything, he's a good man. True, his opinions still remain valid. I'm good. Good to hear. I hope you're excited to join us for our history lesson today. Okay. Thank you for the follow, Natsuya Shiba. Thank you, thank you. Welcome to the cult. I would like to let you know that you are officially the 1,776th follower. So you are officially providing us liberty in chat today. Okay. Gosh, Hara, your model is so cool. Brad, you're really fucking, like, laying it on today, aren't you? You're gonna make me start blushing. Thank you, thank you. You're very sweet. Okay. So, we're gonna get... No, you're fine. I accept all praise. I am a god, after all. America! Americaya! Okay. So, getting back to it. Wilson, obviously, does not think highly of Ramesses II when it comes to his usurpation of monuments either. He states that it was not enough for the pharaoh to tower over Egypt with his oversized and crude monuments, but he also had to arrogantly dismantle older works from other pharaohs so that he could build his own. This normally is not an uncommon practice, to be sure, but it is only worse in this context. To Wilson, a lengthy king list that was used to legitimize Ramesses II and honor the kings before him, also a common practice, but this time it was hypocritical because of his ransacking of their monuments and the unorthodox length of his king list. This is further touched upon by Wilson in earlier parts of the book, where he brings up the hasty construction of Ramesses II's works and describes them as having a show-off ostentation. God, I see that you're very hyper today, Brett. I like that. Wilson is destroying someone who can't fight back. He really is. Okay. It is obvious from just this excerpt that Wilson holds some sort of contempt for Ramses II, and that could be ascertained from the way he depicts the pharaoh. At one point, even calling... Now, this is quotes. This is actual quotes. Wilson describes Ramses II as a stupid and culpably inefficient general, which could be considered fairly harsh terminology for academic terms. From what is understood, Ramesses II had a king list that was longer than normal, glorified himself at the Battle of Kadesh in a way that was exorbitant even for a pharaoh, and did indeed etch his name on the works of past kings, but all of the aforementioned actions were common for pharaohs both before and after him to just a slightly lesser extent. Wilson makes a fair number of assumptions to reach a conclusion that Ramesses II was a braggart or full of himself, and it is a common bias that shows up in chapters that even seldom discuss the 19th dynasty, let alone Ramesses himself. I understand stupid, but that other word is new to me. Which one? Culpably inefficient? It just means like incredibly. It's just an adjective essentially meaning like he's just really fucking bad at his job. Like to a level of like blame, like a level of he could be blamed for it. But hyper because I got more energy from eating more food is good. I'm happy for you. Were you allowed to swear in class? To an extent, just keep it like not overly vulgar. Okay, so do we have any questions? We're about to focus on to why possibly Wilson felt this way, and what biases possibly caused this, as you can probably already see on the PowerPoint here, religious Cold War geopolitics. Wilson based. You're really liking the Wilson way Wilson's doing it. Yeah, let me smooch Wilson. You're all over smooching people today, Brad. Damn. Okay, so we're going to get into Wilson's possible biases and the reasons behind them. His assumptions are possibly based off the supposed false grandeur that surrounds Ramesses II's works, but there are plenty of other possible explanations for their size and lack of detail. Wilson instead decides to judge the 3,000-year-old pharaoh with his own modern morals, when in reality, Egyptian culture and ideals were vastly different from ours today. Wilson's tendency to look for biblical evidence and themes also may have negatively impacted his view of Ramesses II, as in the book of Exodus, it was Ramesses II himself that attempted to keep the Israelites enslaved, despite witnessing the punishments of the Christian God. This was most likely a product of Wilson's environment, having grown up and written during the 1940s and 1950s. During this time, the Cold War was ramping up, as was the promotion of Christianity against the atheist values of the Soviet Union and recently defeated Nazi Germany. It became integral to the American identity to be anti-communist, pro-capitalist, and pro-religious. This certainly would have altered Wilson's worldview, oh my god, I can't talk, into a bias against anything that was negative in biblical history, like Ramesses II and Pharaonic Egypt. It also provides an explanation for Wilson's seemingly distaste for the Egyptian Empire, as the portrayed empires of the time were entities like the aforementioned. Most blatant is his condemnation of art and monuments under the Egyptian Empire, which reflects the rise in abstract art and jazz improvisation. These two art forms were in direct contrast to the uniform realist art and orchestral music in the USSR, with the same characterizations having been shown in Wilson's work. This mirroring is undoubtedly a creation of his own worldview, which most definitely would have been affected by the global politics of his time. Oh, so he was racist? Not particularly. It's more like, essentially, if I had to put it like this, essentially he was during a political age. He let his politics influence his work. And he was writing during a political age when the Soviet Union was all about uniformity and essentially a ruling power over the masses, and working as a community towards that ruling power, in which a lot of artistic expression was through traditionalist means, like realism instead of abstractness, which was a unique identity to left-leaning circles in academics during this time. So yeah. Not necessarily racist, but definitely reaching an area of xenophobia, especially against the Soviet Union. But that's common for that time period. You can't really, blame him for that, frankly, in my opinion. He's a product of his time period. It was the 1950s. That's just natural, frankly. Everyone thought that way at that time. Getting into some distinct examples, right? One example is his earlier comparison of works like the Hypostyle Hall at Karnak and the Temple at Abu Simbel in Nubia, where he criticizes both for their size and waste of valuable space in their floor plans. This criticism comes after the praise of the Great Pyramids of Giza, which themselves were the largest monuments in all of Egypt even after Ramesses II. They also required vast amounts of building materials, which were often taken from monuments built before Khufu and were not very efficient for their space either, and yet Wilson praises them and does prescribe the same negative labels to Khufu as he did Ramesses II. His view of Ramesses II in the Ramesside period is reflected even by the title of his book and its chapters, in which Wilson uses his perspective of Egyptian history to show a steep decline in the 19th dynasty and looks to the Ramesside pharaohs as the cause for Egypt's fall from grace. To Wilson, the pharaoh became as useful as a broken reed during the Ramesside period, and that opinion is evident throughout his entire depiction of Ramesses II. Also, Wilson's complaints just sound like he's annoyed it wasn't a strip mall. Honestly, the comparisons, in my opinion, are kind of rather unfounded, because he says, well, the monuments are overly large and waste a lot of space. They don't have any practical uses. No shit! They're memorials! The entire point of them being built is for Ramesses to flex his shit! That's what every pharaoh did. That was the entire point. You don't look at the Pyramid of Giza and go, man, that guy's obviously got an ego. How fucking useless is that pyramid? It's too big. It's dumb. It's all monuments. All monuments are made out of ego. I should start a history channel. I mean, that would be pretty popular. History is pretty big right now. You have to find a way to do it different from everyone else. Not unpacking that, I'm learning Egyptian history. What do you mean by that? Oh my god, I can't stop keeping and I hate it. I think I breathe too quickly when I talk to you guys and have to talk a lot, and it causes me to hiccup. It's so embarrassing. I can't not hiccup. I don't think I haven't hiccuped on stream in forever. No, dude, seriously, Wilson's takes are so unfounded. I get being what a dick head for defacing another person's shit, but oh, this one is too big. Bro, what? Now, there is something that I will say in credence of Wilson's argument that I will give him. And when he talks about them being shoddily constructed and built too quickly, the big reason that is kind of a valid criticism for them not being able to, like, his structures not being able to last as long is simply because, like, Egyptians cared a lot about remembrance. So you kind of had to toe this line when building memorials of, do I want to see it finished when I'm alive, or do I want it to stand forever? And risk the fact that if it stands forever, the pharaoh after me might cancel my project after I'm dead. Better yet, might even steal, worse yet, even steal from it to make his own. So in the terms of this, like, a lot of pharaohs went with the latter, which was, well, I want it to last forever, because remembrance is very important in ancient Egyptian society. Being remembered while you're in the afterlife is extremely paramountly important, and that's something that we will get into later. So by building shoddily constructed buildings that were very big, it kind of shows like a lack of foresight of being like, look at how great I am with how big these are, but it doesn't fucking matter if it collapses within a century, you know? No one's gonna remember you. They're just gonna build over it. Sorry to be such a fanboy, but your streams like this are just too creative to pass on. Love your ideas. Thank you, Last Crusade. If you guys continue to like these this much, I would totally love to do them more in the future. I totally won't let my hate for communists bleed into my opinion. Fair enough. Also, Hara, man, I'm not going to take part in convo about communism and other economic shit. That is wise, Bread. I would ask that we do keep political opinions out of the chat. Thank you, though. Everybody just be nice to everybody. That is the take for this hangout spot. We're here to vibe, okay? We're here to learn and vibe. I mean, yeah, I get that, but like from what you said, it sounded like you focused way too heavily on the size of it. He did a little bit, I will agree. But also, you'd have to argue like, man, if you didn't make your monument so fucking big, it'd be easier for them to finish it in your lifetime, and you could have given them better quality. You see what I mean? But you are correct. Like, I mean, it's an ancient Egyptian king. Like, they're gonna want to make their shit bigger, man. That's just how, is that not how dudes are? Like, I might be a girl, but like, is that not how dudes are? Like, don't you guys just like making shit bigger? The bigger, the better. Like, am I wrong? Like, monster trucks, for example, dude. Like, you could have stopped at normal trucks, but you guys went with monster trucks. Then you got jelking. That's its own thing. Always got to make it bigger. Size matters. Size matters. He does sound a little jealous, but he doesn't have anything to be jealous about. I think the bias, the critique bias of him being not liking Ramesses in Egypt as a whole, because he was heavily religious during this time period, I think is a very astute observation. I'm slightly concerned with what mortals want to make bigger. Me too, Artie. I accidentally fell asleep to the voice of the bird. What I miss? You miss so much, Q. Holy shit. You're fucked on the test, dude. You're screwed. You're donezo on the test, man. Q's not making it out of the senior year with this one. Also, because you fell asleep, like I said, that's a D for your attendance for today. I warned ya. No falling asleep. No falling asleep in class, you little shit. There's a test. There will be a test on Monday. There will absolutely be a test on Monday. I better make a lot of doodles then. Yeah, you better. Better make a lot of really good ones. Better make me look really fucking hot, too. Or cute. I'll take both. Hara, do you know of any way I can get good sources for free? Your library, baby. Your fucking library. If I'm being honest, though, a lot of sources like this, like, you have to buy them yourself off Amazon or Kindle, which was, like, kind of, like, they're still kind of expensive that way. What you might be able to do, I'm not sure how often universities do this, but you might be able to talk with your local university, and they might let you peruse their library itself. Or if you go to a public library and it's a public institution, you might be able to ask a public library to borrow a book from a university institution. I'm gonna make a lot of nuggies and food to share so I can convince the gorgeous teacher to not fail me. What can I say? Flattery will get you somewhere in my class. I will also say, Brad, You can find a lot through Google as well, but I will be honest, when I was taking my master's in my undergrad, most of the sources I found were through online article catalogs that could only be accessed if you either paid out the wahoo for it, like a yearly subscription of like $100 a year, or you were part of a university, like you had a university login and your university paid for a subscription for it. Your cat fell asleep on your forehead? Pet him for me. Additionally, if there's a specific text you want to read, you can find the writer's email and ask them for a copy. I did this 4 times, and all 4 were more than excited to send me a PDF of it. It's true. You have to remember that a lot of academics love sharing their work, especially if they're articles. If they're articles and not full books, they will be very likely to do that because they just want to share their articles. Typically, I don't think most academics make money off of published articles because they go into journals, which are published, and the publisher of the journals makes the money. Like the school or university they're working for. So yeah, if there is some stuff that you're interested in, you can always send something their way. A good starting place is unironically Wikipedia. Go to Wikipedia, read something. If something interests you, go to the bottom and look at the sources and then find your source from there. That is a very smart way to do things. That being said, you shouldn't transliterate Wikipedia into your presentations and your history papers, but that is a valid way to find sources. Plus, also, academics love sharing their knowledge, especially about things they're interested in, like a historian would be. So, okay. So, we're going to move on to our second book. Our next book and our next historian will be Joyce Tildesley's, Ramesses, Egypt's Greatest Pharaoh. So, this book is entirely focused around Ramesses, whereas Wilson's was focused about almost every Egyptian pharaoh. Okay. The more controversial it is, the more likely the Wikipedia is not useful, great for reading up on fairly benign ancient history things, except for a few specific topics that get academics heated. Well, also, as the further you go back, the harder it is to actually, like, be able to consider things considered true. Like, find things considered true. Because, like, especially when you get to, like, this age, and you get to the age of, like, the Greeks, like, the ancient Greeks, like, a lot of your sources are, like, stories made up by a philosopher that's telling a fable. So you, like, that's a big thing with, like, ancient history, and that's why it's so different from modern history, is that you're having to differentiate between fact and fiction in almost everything you read, and you're having to analyze the inherent biases of literally your one source, because, like, they're the only person that fucking wrote about it that survived, so... Every myth or legend has some truth. Yeah, vtubers are real. That's my argument for today. Remember that people assumed Troy was literally made up for the Iliad until they found the damn thing? Well, actually, we don't know if we found Troy. I believe that we found a city that might have been Troy, but we have not been able to but I don't think historians and archaeologists have been able to confirm that it was actually Troy. It's in about the same area. It's believed to be, but there's not really, I don't think there's any concrete proof yet, unless that's changed. I think the last time I heard about it was about a year ago. So, we should just ask the city what it's called. Literally just walk up to some, like degraded ruins and, like, gently rub your hand down the side of the wall and be like, tell me your secrets. What is your name? The wall just whispers back. That's what it whispers. Because it's a wall, dude. You're not getting anything back from a wall. Atlantis. Atlantis was likely made up. Get the Ouija board out and ask the dead. Get the Luigi board out. Okay. Alrighty, so now we're gonna focus on Tildesley's Ramesses, Egypt's Greatest Pharaoh, in which she gives Ramesses II a more positive description when it comes to both his personal character and his works. When it comes to the pharaoh's monuments, Tildesley notes the same things as Wilson, most notably the number and size of the monuments created by Ramesses II. But she does not include any contempt for the monuments, nor Ramesses II's change from the artistically focused raised relief of Seti I to the quicker and sloppier sunken relief form of carvings on his temples. The reason for this, as Tildesley surmises, is that Ramesses II wanted to see the completion of such grand works within his lifetime, something that Seti I, his father, had missed due to the lengthy process of raised relief carving. To her, the pharaoh was not some conceited emulation of his predecessors, but simply a ruler that saw the utility in finishing larger monuments in a quicker fashion. Because of different interpretations, she looks at Ramesses II's monuments with awe because of their size, rather than disapproval for their lack of artistic style. She even provides an example to the importance of having such monuments completed in a timely manner. During the reign of Ramesses II, Seti I's mortuary temple, a pylon, obelisks, and colossal statues of his own had yet to be finished before his passing, and had to be finished by his successor, his son. In contrast, Ramesses II's mortuary temple was a grand complex, also another name called the Mansion of Millions of Years, and became the center of worship for the cult of the dead, who then deified Ramesses II while he was still alive. She also shows evidence that Ramesses II was a scholar and scribe that found tradition and theological building requirements to be of great personal importance. I'm still surprised I fit in shorts from when I was 14, completely off topic. Jeez. Yeah, I definitely don't fit in shorts when I was from when I was 14, that's for sure. But then again, I didn't really wear shorts. It was usually pants. So, yeah, I'm not even close, dude. I'm trying to get my way back down there, hopefully soon. Slowly losing weight. I think I've lost about 5 pounds this week. I think if I had to make an educated guess. So hopefully it stays that way. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so. Something that is agreed upon, however, is the disrespect paid towards Seti I's and other pharaohs' monuments, which Ramesses II failed to complete and sometimes even usurped. However, Ramesses II does not hide from such actions and openly admits to them, hoping to glorify his father's name by glorifying his own, therefore making Seti I the father of a king as great as Ramesses II. The pharaoh often had his workers put more effort into his likeness when it came to depictions of him with multiple people, with even the gods receiving less detail than that of the great king Ramesses II. This comes across as self-centered to be sure, but it still lacks the depiction of intense arrogance that Wilson describes in his retelling. Tildesley then again unintentionally refutes another of Wilson's points, and that is the interpretation of the size of Ramesses II's monuments. As stated earlier, the pyramids of Giza by Khufu remain the largest structures, and Tildesley adds that Amenhotep III had erected four of the largest colossi, which contradicts Wilson's criticism of the size of Ramesses II's. I'm trying to gain and you're losing. Oh, oof. Wilson seems like a very open person to critique. I mean, possibly, I would imagine, if he were still alive at this time. This was 50 years after Wilson's book came out. Tildesley's came out in 2001. Wilson's was in 1951, so almost, 50 years to the letter. From what can be understood, by Tildesley's perspective, is that Ramesses was a pharaoh that concerned himself more with the practicality of monuments and structures and utilized size rather than artistic detail to display his greatness. The Ramesses II described in her book seems like a pharaoh that concerned himself more with the dealings of the gods than most others, as he intensely focused on theological building rites to put great effort into restoring a plethora of temples, like the Temple of Ptah in Memphis. To Ramesses, it seemed that his favor with the gods and the worship of him by his people were the most important things to him, not the artistic stylings of his works, nor the courtesies towards his deceased predecessors who were regarded as already having made it to heaven. The same could be said for his vanity and desire for positive recognition, where the Battle of Kadesh obviously went badly for the pharaoh, but to depict himself in a way that was not godly would only hurt his claim to both his people and his gods. Whereas Wilson regarded Seti I as a pious man, and therefore showered him with praise, Tildesley seems to imply the same for Ramesses II, by explaining such actions, the pharaoh even swearing to them after stretching the truth about his near defeat at Kadesh. Tildesley explains the pharaoh in another positive way concerning Ramesses II's change to sunk relief carvings because she herself seems to find utility to be a positive factor when discussing the ease in discerning whether a carving was Seti I's or Ramesses II's at the temple at Karnak and other completed or restored monuments from that period. This positive look at utility over the artistic was possibly influenced by the rapid technological advancement of the late 1990s and early 2000s in which Tildesley wrote her book. During this time, utility through technology was revolutionary for both utilitarianism and communicative means. This means that an increase in society's perceptions about efficiency and a decrease in strict religious ideas prevented a perspective similar to Wilson's to be formed. Do we have any questions? I'm going to take a quick pause because I've been going for a minute. Do we have any questions? Tildesley seems to a bit of a more larger summary. Ramesses was seen by Tildesley as more of a utilitarian. Monument size does matter and importance to the gods because it matters in the afterlife. His usurpation was honorary, and that it didn't matter that he was scratching out the name of his father and grandfather and people before him, because you could tell through the raised or sunk relief carvings which was his originally built and which ones were theirs. He also seemed to care more for like how he was perceived by gods rather than mortals, as, you know, that's kind of something you should care about if you're going to be returning to the aspect of Horus in the afterlife. The British even stole artifacts from their own people, like Seahenge. They stole it from its town that had it on a reservation. Really? I didn't know that. I had no clue. That's crazy. Alrighty. Any questions? I don't see any raised hands. Everybody still caught on? Everybody keeping up? Half of it's gone missing too. Oh, geez. Ye as in you have a question, or ye as in you understand? I'm following the nuggy crumbs, don't worry. Is there anything that just seems out of depth? Like, is there anything that you guys don't understand? You need me to explain anything a little bit deeper, or do you have any opinions that you'd like to voice? How do you guys feel about Tildesley's approach compared to Wilson's? So far, at least. It's strange because either people mostly dislike him or feel neutral about him. Like, what's your feeling on him? I mean, I think frankly, we'll get into the positive ones here in a bit. I think that he was a great pharaoh, but definitely an egotistical person. But I think you have to ask yourself, aren't all kings egotistical? Like, isn't that every king? So if he's on par with all the others, is it really that bad? So, as long as his doctrine was good and he kept the empire together, I think that makes a pretty good ruler, frankly. In my opinion. That's how I see it. But we'll also get into more positive interpretations towards the end of the paper, which we're nearing. We're at 14 of 21. Yeah. I have no opinion. I get ya. Do you guys kind of like, do you guys see the change in difference between the interpretations, between the biases behind Tildesley and Wilson? While Wilson was in the 1950s and was likely inspired by the politics of his time, Tildesley focused on the utilitarianism, which was likely focused on because of the 1990s and 2000s, where they were entering the emerging internet age. Which I think is a pretty good idea. I think that's a pretty good look into why Tildesley possibly feels the way she does about the utilitarian aspects of sunk carvings rather than raised. Okay, so we're gonna move on. When it comes to Tildesley's assessments of Ramesses II, however, it is obviously that Tildesley takes a lot of what the inscriptions say at face value. For example, he describes both Seti I and Ramesses II as having a mastery over the natural world due to inscriptions concerning both rulers' propensity to locate natural resources by themselves, such as quartzite quarries and wells that had gone unfound during the time of Seti I and before. Well, it is not impossible.
Sun Tzu said that.
He sure did. That they were masters of their local geography. It seems like it would be more likely that someone else found these things under the king's command, rather than they themselves having the perfect eyes and knowledge for such tasks. Besides occasionally taking some texts at face value, the author's depiction of Ramesses seems to be fair. He was notably a vain and self-centered pharaoh, but not to the extent that it negatively affected his judgment when it came to his preparations for the afterlife, nor his positive impact on Egyptian temple structures. It's interesting the different perspectives. It really is. It's crazy how 50 years can change two people's different perspectives on the same content. And we're about to get into two more people's, so. Okay. So now that we are done, by the way, I put drank the Kool-Aid because that's what I was referring to as. She kind of drank the propaganda Kool-Aid here by taking a lot of the carvings and inscriptions at face value, which I find to be funny. I think it's pretty obvious that, I don't know, maybe it's hindsight being 2020. This is 23 years later after she wrote this book, but I think it's pretty easy to tell that probably Ramesses II did not locate quartzite quarries. I don't think he was out in the desert with his dudes going, I smell it, dude, there's quartz around here, I can fucking smell it. I can smell it. Like, nah, there's no way. Nah, he did on God? Nah, no way. Ain't no way. I refuse to believe it. Okay. Finally, well, I say finally, but next, we're going to move on to our first article. So now that our two major texts have been completed, the next is the article, The Kingship of the 19th Dynasty by William J. Murnane, which was written in 1995. Now you might be asking, Hara, I'm looking at this book cover. They don't say Murnane on it. They don't say shit like Kingship of the 19th Dynasty. Well, the reason is because it was an article that was in a collection of this that was in this book. This book is a collection. This is how you can find it. So that in a way that I could essentially give the right avenues to find it, I kind of had to use this book cover, which is by E.J. Brill. It is Ancient Egyptian Kingship, and it essentially compiles a lot of academic articles on ancient Egypt kingship, obviously by the name of the book, and puts them into one place. So it's a writer's name. Yeah, not quite. And this is typically how academia typically works. When you write an article, it is typically compiled by editors and a single author into a book for comprehensive study. Okay. So now we're going to move on to Murnane. Wait, what's up? What's up? What are we waiting on? You said you had papers? Yes, I do. In fact, this is one of my papers. This is one of my old papers. If okay, I mean, I can. I just have to scrub all of my information off of it. Okay. So, of course, yeah, I know. I don't mind. I actually shared one of my papers around very early on in my career, so. None of them are published, so you're not going to be able to, like, trace them back to my IRL self anyway. Unless you figure out who my professor was that I wrote this for whichever class and contact them and they tell you. Which I don't think they do. I don't even know if they'd remember me because some of these are really old papers, so. Alright. So, Kingship of the 19th Dynasty by Murnane delves deeper into the reign of Ramesses II and details the author's theory that Ramesses II was not just an usurper of monuments, but possibly even an usurper of the throne. Though Ramesses II erasure of certain figures from monuments built by Seti I is common, Murnane theorizes the existence of a figure named Mehi that was also a possible rival to Ramesses II before his ascension to the throne. Naturally, the depiction of whichever figure this Mehi had has been erased and been replaced by a younger depiction of Ramesses II as a child. This is odd because in the 18th dynasty before, it was not a practice for a pharaoh to depict their child sons on the battlefield with them, nor was it common for a pharaoh to go back and insert himself into a depiction he was not already in. Thanks for the lurk, Ronin. I'll happily take your organs. You do realize you can access the exact location of where the document was typed if it was on any computer when made? Oh, no, I didn't know that. That's kind of crazy. I don't think anyone that I give it to would really try that, though. Frankly. I think. I don't know. Maybe I can send it in a series of screenshots. How about that? Okay. I just want to read your takes. Fair enough. So. I wouldn't, but I'm just saying. I mean, I know. Okay, so. Murnane theorizes that this figure, Mehi, was a fan-bearer that had risen to the rank from being a commoner in the military. However, Murnane and Breasted, who was the inception of this theory, another Egyptologist, stretched the physical sources they had much too far to reach this conclusion. He further supports this by discussing Ramesses II's tendency to emphasize his familial connection to Seti I, and the notion that Ramesses II's likeness kept some status symbols that had been attributed to the prior figure. However, the evidence for the existence of such a person is lacking, and any concrete evidence of his background are even less verifiable. The figure's name, Mehi, was a very common name that was often repeated numerously in other Egyptian records, so much so that it could be debated as an allegorical term referring to the common man. This means that Mehi could have just been a representation of the common army that Seti I fought with. If not, then Mehi also might have been a simple, ordinary foot soldier that Seti I had taken a liking to before the birth of his son. Regardless, the information on this figure lacks too much context to imply that Ramesses II had a rival for the throne, let alone a rival that was a commoner. Okay. So, what do you guys think about Mehi? So, essentially the way that this was found out, how they found out who Mehi was that there are some depictions, I think it's at Karnak, the temple at Karnak, that was built by Seti I. And essentially a figure in multiple spots has been completely erased. Like essentially they took a chisel and chiseled the figure away and then chiseled back in a young version of not Seti I, of Ramesses II. And we can tell because the plaster has worn away and shows the carvings under it. Who is Mehi? So Mehi is likely a common person or foot soldier that Seti I just took a liking to and decided to depict on his wall. Mehi was like the name John, frankly. Like, it could have been literally fucking anybody. Or it could have just, it was so common, like, it was like Bob. That's what it is. It was like Bob. It was like the name Bob. Or Joe, or anything like that. Like Joe Schmo is what it could have been. So it was a Twinkie-like trust? No, probably not. I mean, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility, but probably not. Especially because it was depicted at war. So it was probably might have been like a steward or a squire or an assistant. Or it says fan bearer, which is like, again, like an assistant, essentially. That he just happened to like really like before he had his son, Ramesses II. So, yeah. Or it also, like said here, it could be a depiction of essentially like an allegory for the army that he fights with, because it stands for the common man, the name Mehi. So it's very unlikely that Murnane's theory that Ramesses stole the throne from this figure that was a commoner that said he had adopted is just so out of left field. I wouldn't doubt if it was something like that and Ramesses II was just like, fuck that though. I mean, maybe. Possibly. What's more likely is that Ramesses II did it because he wanted to be associated more with his father. You know who Ramesses II makes me think of? Who? Who are you thinking of? Okay. While you type that out, we'll continue with Mehi and Murnane. So, while lacking in evidence there, Murnane's next argument is backed by something more solid. His discussion moves on to Ramesses II's depiction of the Battle of Kadesh, which seems to vilify his army and over-exaggerate the pharaoh's role in the battle to eye-rolling lengths. Murnane, however, surmises that the point of such a depiction was not to disrespect the army he used for many decades after the creation of the monument, but to instead promote a depiction of him that was heroic with seemingly godlike powers. Unlike Wilson, however, Murnane still provides some credibility to the pharaoh as he argues that Ramesses II's depiction of himself is not factual, neither is the depiction of him as a terrible general entirely accurate either. Murnane is willing to give the pharaoh the benefit of the doubt that, while he did not single-handedly defeat the Hittites, he may have shown resolve and valor on the battlefield that prevented his men from being routed by their enemies. Cusco? Yeah, it kinda does. The same benefit is given to Ramesses II when Murnane evaluates his rule as well. When it comes to the pharaoh's self-centeredness, it could be argued that he deserved to depict himself in such a way because the hand he had been dealt as a ruler was so unfortunate. This was integral to Egyptian society, as Ramesses II was able to divert attention away from the multiple crises that happened under his rule. Murnane suggests that this perceived panic and further collapse during the later Cold War, in quotes, with the Hittites, despite the pharaoh utilizing a form of propaganda to seemingly elevate himself. Because of this successful campaign, Ramesses II was possibly able to draw out the stalemate and wait for a good opportunity in which he leapt towards taking Western Asia and gaining something from a conflict that had seemed previously doomed. To Murnane, situations such as that made Ramesses the Great worthy of his posthumous title. So essentially what he's saying here is that while Ramesses did lie, obviously, at the Battle of Kadesh about how much of a role he did play, the reason that he might have lied is because the empire was in a bit of a declining state, with so many losses having been taken recently. So much borders have been lost with the Hittites, because Kadesh had recently been owned by his father, Seti I, and he was trying to take it back. Western Asia, holdings in Western Asia were getting encroached upon. The empire's coffers were a little lighter than they normally were. So morale could have been low among the populace, and by doing this, he could have kept morale from reaching a critical point at its time period, and kept people from an outright revolt and just a collapse of the empire itself. Wouldn't it be a hot war since it's the desert? I know I'm being stupid. Fair enough, it was over Canaan, which would have been still relatively cold. Not quite a desert during that time, it would have been very lush. So I think Murnane presents a pretty good argument as to why possibly Ramesses II, while a master at propaganda, could have been doing it for good means. He, however, had an issue with applying modern concepts to historical events, and that's what we can see through the term Cold War, as he just used, which he uses to describe the lull between the Hittite and Egyptian War. This is a product of Murnane's experiences during his life through the height of the actual Cold War from the 50s to the 80s. Well, actually, it would have been the 90s, but he wrote this book in 95. But he is also known to have referred to both the Egyptian and Hittite empires as superpowers, in quotes, even though such a term does not precisely fit them. This shows another product of modern influence that sometimes seeped into historians' perceptions and writings of the ancient world. While this example is rather harmless compared to the negativity of the term usurpation and other examples that have been provided, such descriptive terms lead some readers' perceptions of such events astray. The use of superpower undermines the very real threat of the Assyrians and Babylonians to the east, in which they threatened both the Egyptians and Hittite empires at the time. So he describes them as kind of like applying a Soviet Union, US superpower, global dominating force to Egypt and the Hittites, when in reality it was more likely it was kind of like a juxtaposition European conflict. 1995 was when this book was released. This article was released. So while technically it wasn't during the Cold War had ended 4 years earlier. It would have probably been written, and he probably would have grown up and studied extensively during that time period. So you can see a very big push and reason as to why he would possibly describe things with such terminology. Alrighty then. We're finally on our last article. Do we have any questions? Do we have any opinions about Murnane's depiction of Ramesses II? Interesting. I'm glad you find it interesting. But we are nearing the end of our presentation. We are on page 17 of 21, so we've only got 4 pages left. Anything at all? Any hands? Remember, this is on the test, just kind of neutral. His take is kind of neutral in the sense of that, well, actually, I would argue that Murnane's is actually extremely positive of Ramesses II, probably the most positive out of anyone here. Maybe outside of Brand, who gives him a lot of credence, frankly. Because, I mean, he focuses a lot on his generalship and his empire building. Yeah, I know on how you meant how you felt, but I would argue that, I guess, for Murnane's, I'm just saying, like, is very positive. In the sense that, I mean, he just outright calls him, like, he deserves the title The Great, like Ramses the Great. Frankly, because of how well he possibly held the empire together at the time. Again, like, there are describing factors in his article that show and reinforce this. That's something that you'll have to read upon in his article, because I don't have them written here, but he does have some pretty solid evidence to show that Ramesses was a really good king, dealt a really bad hand coming onto the throne, and essentially really held things together. When we get to modern era history, I want to hear some research on the Vietnam War. Lascar, I likely won't do one on Vietnam. I might eventually, but actually the next big presentation I was gonna focus on was the Soviet Union's Vietnam War, also known as the Soviet-Afghan War, that took place from 1970 to about 1985, I think. And that was my master's thesis that I think I would be more than happy to do a presentation on eventually. That one's very interesting. It goes more into the geopolitics, and economic factors. The argument of the whole paper is that the war itself was the main contributing factor to the fall of the Soviet Union, not Gorbachev's economic policies, which is the current academic discourse, is that the economic policies were the main reason. Well, that's something to be explained for a later time. I came back after hearing Soviet-Afghan War. Oh man, my jam. Well then I'm glad you'll enjoy it. We might get to it at some point. Okay, from what all of the historians say in looking through propaganda, I would say that, yeah, Ramesses II did well. He very much probably clutched up, to be honest. It is possible. I mean, the fact that he was able, despite losing the Battle of Kadesh and making himself look like an arrogant jackass by writing his depiction the way he did end up creating a 60-year lasting peace with the Hittites so he could and make gains against the Assyrians and the Babylonians, so he couldn't have been that bad, you know? He really couldn't have been. At least that's the way I feel about it. Okay. So before we get to our final,
Sun Tzu said that.
He sure did. Before we get to our final article and our conclusion, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. I need a minute to rest my voice and drink some water. So I'm going to put you guys on the Be Right Back screen and run a 1-minute ad, and we will be right back, friends, okay? Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss the end of this presentation. We're almost done. So I will see y'all in about 5 minutes. Bye! Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Bye-bye. Alrighty. Did you know that I'm mentally insane? Me too, buddy, me too. Okay, so now that we have gotten through all but our last article, we'll go ahead and begin. Is there anything that anybody else wants to cover real quick? Any other questions to follow up with before we finish with our last article? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. I think we're all good to go. Okay. Our last article. That's fun. 5 fun facts with Lascar. They're certainly fun. Okay, so our last article will be by Peter Brand, which is called The Usurpation of Monuments, which, much like the last thing we looked at, Murnanes, it is in this book here, Egyptian Archaeology by Willeke Windrick. Windrick? I think that's how you say that? I think, to be honest, I would have to say that while Ramesses II made himself very arrogant, it probably was a bit of egotism coming through. Looking at King Arthur when he was fighting with the Danes and, like, taking England back, look at the stories told of him and the egotism portrayed. But then the stories of him being a good leader, too. I think it just happens to a lot of times with the turmoil. People will look to leaders they have and be more fanatical in their depictions and worship. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you also do that because you don't want people to question, like, to question your reign. It just helps with stability. It's just a smart thing to do at that time, especially when people don't know any better. But okay, we're gonna focus on our last article by Peter Brand, The Usurpation of Monuments, which thoroughly explains the concepts of usurpation and explains the commonality in ancient Egyptian sentiment behind it. Can anyone tell me what usurpation means? Does anyone remember what usurpation means from the beginning of this presentation? Anybody? We talked about it a lot. I just want to see if somebody still remembers. Want to make sure I'm not losing everybody on it. Anybody? Anybody? I know, but I can't be the know-it-all student again. Nonsense! I love know-it-all students. Was it to claim the former king's stuff as your own? In essence, Perfeast, yes, you are correct. So, sometimes before the Ramesside period, the erasure of names on monuments and funerary texts were to delegitimize or even erase an earlier pharaoh, like in the case of Hatshepsut. Oh my god, I can never say her fucking name. That bitch needs to get an easier name to say. I'm calling her Hat from now on. I'm calling her Hat. She's Hat. She's just Hat now. It was, however, a common trait of Ramesses II to claim the inscriptions of prior Ramesside pharaohs, and it certainly had the effect of delegitimizing pharaohs like his father, Seti I, and grandfather, Ramesses I. Brand estimates that possibly hundreds of statues and other monuments had the names of their original inscribers erased and replaced by that of Ramesses II. This provides excellent scope for just how widespread Ramesses II's usurpations were, and one could assume that Ramesses II did indeed have the kind of arrogance that caused him to disrespect his father and grandfather so frequently. However, Brand provides a counterpoint to this assumption as he looks into the deeper context of why Ramesses II was usurping monuments more than his ancestors. Judging by the time that Ramesses II began this practice, the pharaoh wished to promote himself rather than erase the original owners of such inscriptions. This can be ascertained by the fact that Ramesses II performed such usurpations later in his reign and did not erase existence of his father and grandfather during a time when many in Egypt would have failed to recall such rulers. Yeah, fuck you, Hat. Get an easier name. Yeah, exactly. Now, this is an interesting argument brought forth by Brand here, which is that, remember, Ramesses II he looted for 61 years. Yep, he ruled for 61 years. So, he would have outlived most of his citizenry. That is a very important aspect to remember. So that means by the back half of his reign, most of his citizens likely didn't remember his father or his grandfather, especially at the end of his rule. So it is very important to remember that it kind of, bro probably felt immortal. Exactly. So, like, it's gonna be hard to make an argument on how arrogant it is when you have to ask, does it really even matter if most of the people worshiping you don't even remember who your father was? You might as well claim it as your own. Like, you're all they remember, you know? Having displayed that Ramesses II did not perform such acts out of malice, Bran then explains the commonality in which other pharaohs usurped monuments and inscriptions. Horemheb notably usurped sculptures of Tutankhamun and Ramesses II's son, Merenptah, usurped many older works by updating them with more cartouches, decorations, and his own name, just like his father had done. And pharaohs throughout the New Kingdom and even after sporadically repeated such practices. As Bran displays, Ramesses II was not the first or the last to perform such usurpations, even if he committed such an act the most. Bran, much like Murnane, gives a rather balanced evaluation of Ramesses II that promotes the pharaoh's tendency to promote himself as something that was understandable, but at the same time, a little self-centered. It seems from Bran's own interpretations that usurping monuments was not something seen as negative or self-centered in Egyptian society, but was a cultural development during the New Kingdom, as pharaohs began to realize the importance of their own recognition and the lack of remembrance their people had for pharaohs from long ago. Like that too, like how the fuck are you not gonna be egotistical? Half the people died around you? Exactly. Like how can you not like actually, okay, when you're like hyped up from day one to be God, like you are a part of God, you are God on earth, your dad was God, you're your dad, like who is a God, you are God. Like quite literally, you are the God of kingship, you were always meant for this from the beginning of time, and you're outliving everybody. Yeah, it's pretty hard to not kind of really imprint on that, you know what I mean? I would be hyping my shit too. Exactly. So, Brand also seems to interpret it with a neutral or slightly positive moral outcome, as it lacks the intense reverence of Tildesley and the harsh rebuke of Wilson. I think such a position could be morally argued, however, as even if Ramesses II lacked any malice in what he was doing, it was still harmful to the image and memory of the pharaohs he took monuments from. The seemingly utilitarian perspective could argue otherwise, as such pharaohs were long in the afterlife, and it promoted the image of the current Ramesses II to such a degree of success that he is still referred to as Ramesses the Great. From the other side of the argument, like Wilson's, it could be seen as self-centered, due to the pharaoh's seeming lack of reverence for the ones before him. However, you could juxtapose against that argument as well, that Ramesses II usurped such monuments was the ultimate form of flattery, as he saw great reverence in claiming the works of his forefathers. Ultimately, the morality of performing such actions remains up for debate, but thanks to what Brand presents, there seems to be a lot of evidence that disproves such possibilities of spite or revolt, as ascertained by Murnane from Ramesses II. Even the term itself, usurpation. Actually, hold on, I need to check my slides. What is my next slide? Here we go. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, I almost forgot. Even the term usurpation contains its own form of bias behind it. So we're now at our usurpation and conclusions. The term itself seems to be loaded, as it connotates a negative meaning towards Ramesses II's restoration projects. By describing it as such, it implies that Ramesses II is stealing these monuments by putting his own name on them, but the understanding of cultural context is not there. It is unknown whether this was seen as a bad practice in Egypt, so for historians looking back on such events, it seems that the term originates from the perspective of a modern moral compass looking at an ancient culture. This kind of cultural misunderstanding, or insertion of the historian's moral compass, reflects the same situation as Murnane's Mehi theory and Wilson's personal religious perceptions of Ramesses II. Oops.
Sun Tzu said that.
He sure did. I accidentally ended the presentation. Hold on. I scrolled at the wrong time. Okay, there we go. As Brand explains, usurpation was a distinct phenomenon of Egyptian culture that, while uncommon, was not a practice that was limited to Ramesses II. Before the Ramesside period, it was frequently used to delegitimize or erase a prior pharaoh, rarely even. But that changes with the 19th dynasty and pharaohs that follow after. Ouch! You know what's fucked up is that we don't know if he paid tribute to the things he usurped. I was so confused. Wait, I still don't see the slide. Oh shit, what the fuck? Hold on. Damn it! It busted! Give me a minute. Can't be a VTuber stream without a little bit of scuff, right? There we go. Oh, okay, it should be fixed. Slide fix, that's why I bonk. I love scuff. Thank you. Okay. You know, that's what's fucked up, that we don't know if he paid tribute to those things he usurped. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. This can be ascertained by the fact that many of these usurpations were selective, and not the complete taking of a past pharaoh's entire legacy. This shows a clear sign that Ramesside-era pharaohs saw a benefit in adding their names to the works of their ancestors, but the exact reasoning remains up for debate. The first thought is for their own glory, or a way to easily display someone else's brilliance as their own. This is a very fitting definition to the loaded term usurp. However, which, you know, usurp might as well be a synonym for steal, you know, take, forcefully take. However, such an ancient culture with a different set of morals and ideals, as well as perceptions about their world and their afterlife, could have found such acts to be acceptable. As shown above, grandstanding and monument depictions was already incredibly common in Egyptian culture. To them, it is possible that usurpation was simply another facet of playing the political game in Egypt. It is paramount to also understand that remembrance was important in Egyptian religion, as it meant that your afterlife would be happier. If you were remembered, your friends, your family, your citizens were more likely to come back and give you funerary offerings, take care of your tomb, and invoke your spirit back to the mortal realm. This is why king lists of past pharaohs who were written down to invoke their aid in life and death, were an important part of pharaonic society, so it only makes sense to give yourself as much recognition as possible. And as earlier stated, a very good point is that Ramses II's temple, the house of million of years or whatever, the mansion of millions of years, was used by the cult of death for hundreds of years after his death, which means that his memory lived on even longer. That is something that is a very big boon for Egyptian society, especially the afterlife. It would be very important to have that happen in religion. That also keeps it from being torn down and destroyed. It also could have been totally something a pharaoh was expected to do. Exactly, it could have been expected of pharaohs. But I will say, friends, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to class today. I hope you enjoyed your time. That is the end of my presentation for today. So I hope you guys had a great time. I'm going to stick around for a little while longer to get some questions from anybody if there's anything else you guys would like to be focused on. But I'm afraid that's all I have, so I'm afraid that will be it. My favorite battle in Egypt is the Battle of El Alamein. Me too, dude. I loved it when Amenhotep III absolutely destroyed Rommel. You did indeed join at the end, Yuzu. I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. I'm so sorry. I love the ancient Egyptian aesthetic. Me too, me too. Love me them anime Egyptian goddesses, you better. I said with a pointed look. What do you mean? Oh, you mean pointed at me? I thought you meant like pointed as in like a negative way. I was like, huh? There's an Egyptian goddess in Monogatari? Really? I didn't know that. Well, I will say thank you everyone that came and hung out, especially you, Bread. Thank you, especially Last Crusade, Bread, Perfees, and Lascar, who were kind of asking questions and keeping up with stream the whole time. That makes me very happy to see how excited and interested you guys were, as I'm sure the other people that were lurking. I'm very happy that you guys enjoyed your time with me today. I'm gonna go ahead and close off our Presentation. Okay. So, what'd you think? Did you guys enjoy it? Is there anything that you guys think could be improved upon? Or are there any other future topics you would like to focus on? Or do you have any other pressing questions about ancient Egypt? I was absent 99% of the lesson. It's okay, Yuzu. The VOD will be up after this. I'm still here. Game time as well. Yes, thank you. Everyone who came in and commented throughout. It was very helpful. I would like more pictures. Okay, so more slides, more pictures next time. Good to know. I will make sure to do that. I do genuinely hope there isn't a test, but I did enjoy seeing you teach us about ancient Egyptian history. Oh yeah, there's definitely a test. On Monday. Usurping memorials could have been something like that for the pharaohs. Oh, it definitely could have been. Oh, I didn't see your other comment. So one more thing, if we look at more modern things like British monarchy, you can see these monarchs are somewhat pressured to do things previous monarchs did. So I bet usurping memorials could have been something like that for the pharaohs. Oh, most definitely. What's your favorite god name? Ooh, that's a good question. Probably Ra. It's so simple, but like it really feels like something you could shout and invoke with power. I know I'm still kind of biased because half of me is Ra. Hara, you just started a hyperfixation. Let's go! Hopefully that means you'll stick around when I do more of these. Ra is a power name for sure. Absolute top. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna fail! Sorry. Ra! Yeah, just imagine charging into battle for Ra! Yeah, it just fits, man. Deliver us. This burning sand. I'm just gonna be stuck thinking about Anubis and other gods and shiz. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, dude. Egyptian mythology is very fun. Okay. So I'll also say, for people that don't know, we could probably do one later on actual, just like mythology in general. I think Egyptian mythology would be a good thing to look at. I would seriously like to read your stuff at some point since you got me into Egyptian history. I'm afraid I don't have many more papers on Egypt. I might have a couple lying around, but because my degree was in general history, it's kind of a little bit all over the place. I only had a couple ancient Egyptian classes, so. Y'all heard of the Anubis keyboard switch? I have not. I dream of an alternate timeline where Egypt never gets Arabized and retains its unique ancient culture. Me too. I do wonder how that would look. It would be interesting. There is the debate, though, that you could make that it might have just been Christianized, though. So it would have to be an old history where it's neither, where it's neither Greek, Roman, Christianized, or like, because Christianized would have happened during Roman occupation. So yeah, you'd have to argue like, you'd have to say like no Christianization, which means no Rome. Ow. Wait, what the heck? That was weird. Did I just move really rapidly for anyone else, or was that my stream, like, catching up? Yeah, it was either gonna be Rome or the Caliphate. Exactly. I got refreshed. Oh, interesting. I'm not sure what happened to my stream there. That was odd. You lagged for me for a sec? Ah, damn. Yeah, Twitch has been kind of poopy. Perhaps in another world they find peace and use Egypt as a buffer state. Most likely, that's possible. But you'd also have to think that maybe it would have been taken over by the Christian Crusaders, which is quite possible. That does seem a little too far south for them, but you never know, man. They were willing to go all the way to fucking Jerusalem. They might go to Egypt, considering it was where Exodus was. A 30-second ad because I refresh is stupid. That shit is unacceptable. Yeah, I've been considering playing with ads mid-stream so that I can take breaks and you guys don't miss anything, but it's kind of hard to do that, and it definitely drives newer people away. Oh, well, I will say, man, talking for what is now 3.5 hours is wiping me. I'm pretty happy though that the presentation lasted 2.5 hours though. That makes me very happy. That lasted way longer than I expected, and I'm very happy that it did. It probably helped that I was stopping to ask for questions and that you guys were so helpful in being here and asking questions and being genuinely interested. That really helped make this a really full and unique stream that I think was very fun to sit in. It was interesting. Thank you, Lascar. This was so fun, and I'm happy to engage myself in history again. I'm happy to engage you guys in it. History is a passion of mine, a very deep passion of mine, and I love that you guys are interested. The presentation was fun and interesting. Thank you, Graham Cracker. Hara, you could not possibly get me to not enjoy this one. I understand, Crusade. I'm happy that you enjoyed it. Now, that being said, if anyone is a little skeptical of the paper, I can provide the sources themselves, as well as page numbers. You know how some people can be, if this is, found by somebody else later on. That can be provided by request. I'm more than happy to. I've got it documented, so I can do so if needed. I'm going to bed. Good night. See you, Lascar. But yeah, I wrote this paper as a final for one of my master's courses that was like 2021, I think, which was a long time ago. And man, did I enjoy writing it at this time. Like, it was the first paper I ever got to take up where I felt like I was like sitting with the academics for once. Like, I was making an argument against and with these academics, and it was really fun to do. I really liked it. Same, I really love history, and I'm sad I haven't had many ways to engage in it. It can be difficult. But yeah, those papers are great. It like really makes you feel like you're a part of academia, and I think that's what like the big plus is to doing it. To the pro. Being able to be like, this bitch got an L take. Yeah. Also, I gotta keep it to like ancient history. Someone asked for more like modern stuff. That the problem with modern stuff is that like politics are still kind of harsh and hot on those kind of things. So there are a lot of things I can't cover in the modern era just because I don't want a lot of people getting mad at me or starting arguments in community and stuff like that. Also, I'm not like exactly a professional on all of these. While I do have experience and have a master's in history, that doesn't mean that everything I say is factually correct and always going to be right. And a lot of it with history is opinion. It's pulling opinions from facts. So, how recent is modern? I think modern is typically categorized 1945 up is my say. Honestly, actually, the modern period for historical analysis, I think, is 1800s up. I think that's usually when it is. Speaking of semi-modern things, man, war is bad, but Desert Storm might be like top 3 coolest things. It was quite effective, that's for sure. Would you be able to talk about the Cold War too, or is that too recent? I could talk about the Cold War for sure, but there would be certain things that I'd have to leave off. Ow. For example, I do have a paper on the effect of the Vietnam War on modern US culture that we could do at some point, which I don't think would cause any political problems. It is political. It does have some politics in it. And it will definitely change a lot of your perceptions about not only US history, but some US presidents, especially. There's a lot of unknown stuff that's put in there. So we could do one of those eventually. I'd have to make PowerPoints for those, though, which means I'd essentially have to go through and read back my old papers. I read a book on it, and it was very good. Did it happen to be Gunfighter Nation? Gunfighter Nation is part of a trilogy of books by Richard Slotkin that focus on American cultural perceptions and its changes throughout history. I would definitely recommend it. If you want some good reading material and you want something more America-focused, It spans from literally the inception of America, 1776, to modern times. The second book in the trilogy is called Gunfighter Nation. Absolutely incredible trilogy. Absolutely incredible trilogy of books. It completely made me look at differently, like, modern America, like, frankly, and not necessarily in a negative way either. Like, that's not saying in a negative way. But it's very interesting. Slotkin makes a lot of really good, well-backed arguments in that book. I would recommend it. If you want some historical stuff to read, that's a good one. Same thing with, when it comes to, like, the end of World War II, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan's Longest Day by the Pacific Historical Society is also a really good one. That's a good book to focus on as well. And it covers how America started the French-Vietnam Revolution and then antagonized post-French Vietnam. Really? Interesting. This one looks more of, like, the changes of cultural movement and how Vietnam eventually, like, affected it. But, it's more like American imperialism, and why it was common and its effects on, like, perceptions of America and why there is such a negative prevailing perception of America today in society, and how we got there is essentially the argument of the trilogy. It does a really good job. Anyway, is the justification of atomic weapons in Japan too political despite its age? Sadly, it is, Crusade. It really is. Some people are kind of wholly discount the historical perspective that a lot of historians present and choose to rather insert their modern politics into it, with a lot of hindsight as 2020 takes, and it kind of turns into a sling fest pretty quick, I've noticed. So that's not something I would be willing to do a presentation on, I'm afraid. Regardless, it was very fun doing this with you guys. We will be back on Sunday at 2 p.m. CST. We're going to be playing ourselves our usual War Thunder, but I think we're going to go ahead and call stream here. I'm pooped, frankly. It's almost midnight. I need to get some food in my belly, and I hope you guys had a great time. So we're going to find somebody to raid.